Rebel Force Radio presents
I am Boba Fett.
Boba Fett.
Jabba ruled with fear. I intend to rule with respect.
Boba Fett.
This is Rebel Force Radio's The Book of Boba Fett After Show.
Oh yeah, chut. Welcome to a brand new Rebel Force Radio After Show experience. Looking at The Book of Boba Fett, which just premiered today. And I got to tell you, it was tough because I wasn't able to jump on it and watch the episode right away. I had all kinds of like real life stuff going on. And you can't check email. You forget about going on social media. You can't do anything on the day that a new episode of a Star Wars series premieres. You just can't. You can't, because people are putting like spoilers and subject lines of emails and stuff like, geez, Al, I just woke up. Stop. Looking at you, UK residents. My gosh. But no, obviously the excitement was well intended and very much shared across the board. I think we're all very much, we've been looking forward to this for a very, very long time. And so mainly because we can get together and do things like this. It's so great. What a fun way to experience new Star Wars in almost real time, where we watch the episode and then we come together like this on the Rebel Force Radio After Show to talk about it, break it all down, what we liked, what we didn't like. So great to be here. And with me, of course, as always, my good friend and yours from Chicago, Jimmy Mack.
Hey, Jason. Hey, Star Wars fans. So happy to see everyone joining us here for the live stream. They had the chat working overtime, or I should say working early time, because people were in there about an hour before we even started talking about the Book of Boba Fett and their likes and dislikes. And yeah, there are a few dislikes being thrown around out there on the internet about this show. But I largely loved everything I saw in the first episode of the Book of Boba Fett. I'll cut right to the chase and start talking very positively about it, because it was pretty much exactly what I was expecting, judging from the trailers. Mm-hmm. And by the way, I do want to talk about the trailers, because I don't think we were able to mention this on Rebel Force Radio. Robert Rodriguez had done an interview just before Christmas, and he had stated that the content we were seeing was all from the first episode. As a matter of fact, I think he even said the first half of the first episode. And
I heard varying reports of that, though. I heard exactly what you heard, Jim. The first episode, then I heard half of the first episode, then I heard the first two episodes. So I heard multiple versions.
I'll pull up the actual quote from Mr. Rodriguez.
So this is from Rodriguez. All right. So this wasn't just speculation from, I heard from someone who said that. So this is from Rodriguez himself.
Oh, yes. This was in an interview he did with the Hollywood Reporter, and it was titled "How the Book of Boba Fett Will Shake Up Star Wars." And so I have to scroll through it to find the exact quote he makes about the trailer. But if you remember, I kind of said in our review of the trailer that it didn't have that hard-hitting freshness that we were looking for, or that we received from The Mandalorian. And I think this is primarily because of The Mandalorian. The Mandalorian set up so much of the visual style and tone of the Book of Boba Fett that it almost, spin-off of The Mandalorian, most certainly, but it almost feels like more than a spin-off.
A continuation.
Well, a continuation, yes. Yeah. I think it's really clever how they use the use of flashbacks.
Well, a lot of flashbacks. And of course, in some ways, the whole episode is a flashback, depending on where your consciousness is as far as the Star Wars saga. I had texts and phone calls from a couple of friends of mine today who are more casual fans saying, you got to put this in some kind of context for me. They're jumping all over the place. where are we, and what's the main story? Where does the main storyline fit in? And I know for many people that are listening to this and watching this, that's not an issue for you all, but it is an issue for some people, and I would argue a lot of people. This episode jumped around a lot. I also found a ton of. I remember, I think it might have been Rodriguez or Dave or Favreau that said that the Godfather films were a big influence. I saw a lot of that. I mean, especially the use of the flashbacks. Godfather 2, really made an art form out of flashbacks, the way that it wove it so beautifully in with, and I think they were going for some of that, actually. I think they were trying to be somewhat artistic about the flashbacks. But hey, before we dive any further, I do want to acknowledge our wonderful call screener, Tyler Page. We've got Tyler back. What would an RFR after show be without Tyler? So Tyler, thanks so much for being here. We're going to put the number up on the screen here in just a few minutes so you can get logged in. So Tyler, how are you? Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year. I'm doing well. Just got off a Book of Boba Fett, so I'm riding high right now.
How many viewings did you get in today?
4. I started at 3 a.m., so I had a lot of time.
Well, you're young.
Yeah.
By the way, like an hour ago, I saw Tyler. He's sending messages, trading action figures, trying to sell action figures. And I'm like, wait a minute, I'm doing show prep. I know Mac's doing show prep. We got our call screener. He's out wheeling and dealing action figures. I said, don't you have a show to prepare for? No,
these guys.
He knows.
I'm just a medium. Just a medium.
Right.
He's a good screener. He's a good earner.
Yeah, no, we appreciate it very much. Tyler, you're awesome, and we could not do this as smoothly without you. So thanks a lot, man. We'll check in with you later, but so Tyler will be standing by to take the phone calls. And look, we've been doing these after shows. My gosh, the live after shows started with The Mandalorian season 1. We did 2 seasons of that. We also did Bad Batch. So what we know that this show and the YouTube channel is growing, the podcast is growing. So we're really looking to hear from some new folks tonight. So I know we love talking to the tried and true. We appreciate it very much. We love the support, but we're going to maybe put you towards the back of the line a little bit tonight so we can try to hear from some new folks. So new people, call in.
Fresh voices. We want fresh voices this week.
That's right.
Because we know a lot of people are attracted to this show. The hype, Jason said, was planted in our heads a year ago. Boy, what a fast year this was. Boy, what a slow year this was. From a certain point of view, But it was very interesting to get so hyped up for this show. But I mean, my hype for the Book of Boba Fett, and it dawned on me the moment the show began, I've been getting hyped up for this ever since Joe Johnston planted the idea in my head about a Boba Fett standalone film. And he said that when he was out doing media for the Captain America movie he directed. So it was that long ago.
Oh my God. Yeah. That's
First Avenger.
Yeah. That's a decade ago.
Right. And it was Joe who threw that out there about how it would be interesting to have a Boba Fett standalone film. And that was the first time I ever even considered standalone films. George Lucas hadn't even sold the company to Disney yet. And here Joe Johnston is, the guy who actually had a major hand in developing the look of Boba Fett. Here he is talking, a major hand. Heck, he's the one who painted the white armor in the classic Boba Fett colors that we're so familiar with. And here he is planting the idea in my head. And so that hit me right when the show started. Oh, we're finally getting that Boba Fett standalone we've been wanting for so long. And then to go down in the Sarlacc, to actually go in there was something I was not expecting. I thought he would just blast his way out of the Sarlacc pit. I mentioned this on a show before, where I had this vision of the Sarlacc pit as a camera zooms in on it and you see the debris. I mean, it was really much like what we saw in episode 1 of Boba Fett. Where you see the debris of the sail barge and the after effects of the battle. And then all of a sudden, the Sarlacc pit starts rumbling or whatever. And then Boba Fett just blasts his way out of there with his jetpack. We didn't quite get that. He didn't come out of the actual maw itself. He came up out of the side.
Right. Yeah, he went around the corner, made a left, and then a sharp right. Hey, let me do the tail of the tape real quick here, just so we can put ourselves in context. Yeah,
got to do the tail.
I love the fact that there. Actually, I was texting Jimmy last night as I was preparing some things, and I said, because Jim tends to know these things before I ever do, and I go, "Hey, are they going to use the chapters? Are they going to call them episodes? What are they doing?" And he didn't know, and yeah, what they hadn't announced that. But first thing I checked this morning, so yeah, they are doing chapters. This is Chapter 1, Stranger in a Strange Land, Book of Boba Fett, Episode 1. Original air date for those of you listening to this in the future, December 29th, 2021. Runtime of just a little over 38 minutes. Robert Rodriguez directed, written by Jon Favreau. This episode, and takes place 9 ABY, 9 years after the Battle of Yavin. That's somewhere around 5-6 years after Return of the Jedi. So that's it. That's the tail of the tape. Now, Jim, you were just talking about the breakout of the Sarlacc Pit. This is a scene that has become iconic without us ever having seen it, because so many different artists have created, various concepts of what it would look like. It's been told, as you say, in comic books. It's been talked about in novels. And one of the themes that I'm seeing with the feedback to this episode was not enough time spent in the Sarlacc. It was too easy. How did he get out of all that sand? And I was just happy we went into the Sarlacc, really. I assumed we would. But how much time do you want to spend in the Sarlacc? Like, once you see...
mucus and...
I guess, like, if you thought of it like, if it was like a cave and you actually saw him kind of going through tunnels and trying to find his way. Mm-hmm. But as soon as I realized that he was gasping for air, that there was no oxygen down there, then I realized, well, we're not going to spend a whole lot of time in this place.
Yeah.
The one thing that really jumped out at me right away, and I can't say it was a disappointment, but it was a head scratcher, is why a stormtrooper down there? Why not another one of the victims of the battle over the Sarlacc in Jabba's sail barge?
Well, I guess, just purely from a storytelling standpoint, they wanted to reveal that there was no breathable oxygen inside the Sarlacc Pit, or very little. And so they wanted to give Boba Fett the opportunity to display that by taking his oxygen tube and jamming it into his own helmet, so he gets a breath of air, and he can then power his way out of there. Why a stormtrooper? We know stormtroopers were riding around Tatooine on patrol, so maybe his dewback took a wrong turn and the whole thing was in there. Maybe, just if you kept looking, you'd see the dewback just beyond the guy. Maybe he was sitting on the dewback still.
Yeah.
We don't know. But I mean, as we know about the Sarlacc Pit, it digests its food over the course of 1,000 years. Yeah. So it was a prior meal. Maybe that was like the hors d'oeuvre before the sail barge. It was, just so maybe that was lunch and the sail barge was dinner.
And to your point earlier, look, you got a character who is somewhat defined by his jetpack. It made him very unique, his ability to fly. He ends up in a Sarlacc Pit that you would assume that this guy could just jet himself out of there. He didn't. He had to kind of fight his way out of there, but he did use flames. And was your take that he killed the Sarlacc?
Yes, because they showed the tentacle of the Sarlacc just laying in the sand, not moving at all. So yes, Boba did kill the Sarlacc. And I've come to consider that the reason he couldn't use his jetpack to shoot his way out of the mouth of the Sarlacc is because it was damaged when Han Solo hit it with the pike, or the spear, whatever he had, and he hit it, and that's what made the backpack malfunction, throwing Boba into the side of the sail barge and then down into the Sarlacc Pit. So perhaps it was damaged at that point. Some speculation. Perhaps Bib Fortuna did something to sabotage Boba's jetpack. I don't know. Because I want to find, and this will be told in a flashback in a future episode. We're going to keep getting the flashbacks probably throughout the duration of this 7-episode series.
You think there's more? There's going to be more Sarlacc?
Oh, yes. Oh, more Sarlacc? No more Sarlacc. But there has to be more of Boba's story told via flashbacks, because, just to jump to the end of the episode, he's in a place now where he is with these Tuscans, these nomads, and he's sort of proven himself to them.
Yeah.
And we see a sign of that acceptance at the end of the episode when the clan leader hands him the water, the water pod.
Yeah.
Soon to be on sale at Galaxy's Edge for $15 a pod of water. Yeah, true.
It'll just taste like tap water too. You know that, right?
Yeah, Florida tap water, delish. Which is probably very similar to what you'd find in the sands of Tatooine. But
no doubt.
But you see, he's being accepted into the tribe. So there's going to be more story told in flashback about Boba with the tribe. And when you consider that, yes, you did say that this show happens 9 years after the Battle of Yavin, 5 years after Return of the Jedi. But these flashbacks take us to Return of the Jedi.
Yes.
And run concurrently with that story. It's a parallel story being told. So we have 5 years to cover until Boba gets his armor back. And so what's he doing for that 5 years? When he gets accepted by the tribe at the end of the episode, does Boba stay with the tribe for 5 years? I'm beginning to think that that's what we're going to see getting played out in this series.
Yeah, I do too.
Boba the Tuscan Raider.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I was considering, well, what would keep him there with the Tuscan tribe? What would keep him around? Well, the obvious answer would be a woman.
I was going to say the kid. I was going to say the kid.
The kid.
He reminds me of myself.
But so he's going to then just like stick around to adopt some Tuscan Raider?
I don't know. I would love to. You think he's going to hook up with some Tuscan babe?
Well, the one who bested him in that duel they had out in the middle of the desert at nighttime, that was a female Tuscan.
Was it?
Yes.
You know what? That scene for me on my TV, and I watched it twice, was so dark. I couldn't. It was very hard for me to make it out. So maybe if I watched it on a different screen or something, I'd be able to tell. So it was a female that whooped him.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. That is confirmed.
Is it Fennec Shan?
Confirmed. Wouldn't that be weird?
I just had a thought. Yeah. Like, we don't know about how, we don't know her origin.
So how did you two meet?
She kicked my ass on this.
But she was running with the Tuscan Raiders, and she kicked my ass. And then I found I killed this giant with 4 arms, and
it's like whoa, wait, slow down. Oh, you guys are good. I thought
that's really what this whole the Book of Boba Fett is, just how he and Fennec hooked. By the way, I can't say enough. About both Tamara Morrison and Ming-Na Wen. I mean, I think Filoni or somebody said, "Gosh, you got this show. It's being captained or led by a 58-year-old and a 60-year-old." And as I get closer to that age, I start looking. I'm like, well, 58's not that old. But the fact that you've got these 2 stars of this huge TV series that are north of 55, I think is great. And I really believe that they are anchoring this show so well. There were some people that said, well, couldn't they have maybe found a different actor to play younger Boba Fett? Tem was maybe looking a little old for, Return of the Jedi era Boba Fett, things like that. But this is his show, man, and he's doing, I think, a great job. He's not overplaying it. He's not underplaying. I think he's just nailing it. And Ming-Na Wen, my gosh, I mean, she's just fantastic. Talk about a tough female character done right. I think she is. So love those two, and I really like their scenes together. They seem to really understand how to act in a Star Wars thing. Now that guy, what's his name? Barry Lowen, I believe, is the actor. He was the major domo of the mayor. This is where I really have my first gripe. This cat, I don't think he knows at all how to act in Star Wars. It's a different style. He was way too, I don't want to say casual, but way too colloquial, local, just common, average. There was no sense of, there was some theatricality in his movements, but he just, man, it's a hard thing to define, but you know it when you see it. And maybe it's the same, problems that people had with Pelimoto, some of the other actors that I had a similar issue with Horatio Sands when we first saw him as Mythrol in Mandalorian. They just don't fit. And that Garfalaquax, I think that's his name, the major domo of the mayor of Mos Espa, I thought was pretty weak.
It's hard to see a Twi'lek in Jabba's palace, one that lacks the exotic qualities of a Bib Fortuna, Locha,
Yeah,
that's
right.
That is how Twi'leks should be acting, smiling with that gross toothy grin. And
they have a creep factor. They do.
The original Bib set the bar pretty high. And now
Michael
Twi'leks
Carter.
have become, Michael Carter. Twi'leks have become rather commonplace in Star Wars, especially throughout the run of the Clone Wars, where we made countless trips to go see Cham Syndulla and all of his Twi'lek buddies. But I didn't have as much a hang up about that guy because he came off as a real slime ball. And I think that's the goal with him, is to make you hate him. And so if you hate him, I think then the producers and Robert Rodriguez, I think they're getting the desired effect. I think he's one of those characters that has been constructed to be disliked by the audience. So,
well, mission accomplished.
Yeah, I can roll with
Didn't
that.
like him at all.
Would you have accepted him more if he was not a Twi'lek, if he was just like some?
Yeah, I probably would have.
Some greasy guy who rolled in there. Yeah.
Yeah, if he'd have been more human looking, I probably would have liked that. But you're right. I think that's what it was. Here you got Jabba's palace.
Yeah.
And the setting of the first time we ever saw a Twi'lek. That's a really great point. And Bib was so exotic, seeing that action figure for the first time. That's one of my biggest, vintage days, toy memories, was going into the KBs at the mall, where I was about to see Return of the Jedi at the mall cinema and seeing that Bib Fortuna figure. And I just thought, wow, I've never seen anything like this. And this guy, very, very common, and great point about Cham Syndulla and sort of the watering down maybe a little bit of the exotic side of the of them. But the thing I was mentioning, The Godfather, with him, one of the themes of The Godfather is that the politicians pull the strings. The Godfather logo is the Godfather with the marionette strings, and then there's a hand pulling the strings. And a lot of times I think people look at that and they go, oh, that's the Godfather, he's pulling the strings. That's why. No, what it is, that's the politicians pulling the strings on the, in this case, the crime family. They're the ones that really do call the shots. And so Boba's learning that. And that line is kind of funny. Aren't I the crime lord, or whatever he says, as they're all paying tributes, to him. And so that's a lesson learned, and of course, then later we see the big battle. Hey, another observation, and we've talked about this before, is the Gamorreans. I would say, are there no fat people in California that they can get? I mean, no, I don't mean that in a mean way, but like, are there no overweight actors? We've got these Gamorreans with dad bods, basically. That's really, they even have like a 2-pack. Did you notice the one guy had like a 2-pack?
Yeah.
They're not supposed to have 2-packs.
If they're looking for Gamorreans, we could ship a bunch from Chicago, that's for sure.
I got some here in Northeast Ohio too. There's no anyway, but I did like the lesson with those guys, that And Jim, this is a question I've been asking for a while, especially since we were introduced or reintroduced to Boba in Mandalorian. And I wanted to throw this out to you and also our listeners. Are they going out of their way at all to really make Boba Fett a nice guy, a good guy? And does he run the risk of losing his edge?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think Fennec Shan actually, in universe, I think she's sensing that. She's trying to pressure him to use fear as a motivator. Even the droid, 8D8. I don't think they call him 8D8, but he's always 8D8 to me. And even that droid.
No, it is 8D8, confirmed on the subtitles. He's listed as 8D8.
Oh, good.
Yep. Yeah.
Well, he's like the consigliere. You know, he's giving that, Boba, he needs to start building up a crew because
that's his Tom Hagen. 8D8 is his it's his Robert Duvall.
Yeah, that's his Bobby Duvall. So yeah, Tom Hagen, that's his consigliere. And so he's giving him advice saying, hey, you got to torture these Gamorreans. That'll send a message. Don't mess with him. He takes loyalty seriously. And Boba
says that they don't torture.
The same way.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Jim.
Fennec Shan's the same way, where she is encouraging him to use fear as a motivating factor. It's interesting to learn that they expect the crime lord to be carried in on a litter. And that's just a common sight. Yeah. And so they didn't even recognize Boba as the new crime lord because he just strolled in with a couple of Gamorreans and his right hand.
Yeah.
That's how Bib Fortuna got so fat, is because he embraced.
There you go. And guess who was carrying him? Gamorreans. They're dropping weight. And Bib Fortuna is gaining. It all makes sense. It all makes sense now.
It's better than Jenny Craig. Just carry Bib Fortuna around, and you'll shed pounds instantly. But now, that's what's going to happen, and we'll see an image of Bib being carried around on one of those litters too in a flashback.
Yeah,
in a flashback. Speaking of which, I do predict we'll see Matt Wood return as Bib Fortuna in an episode of the Book of Boba Fett. But I found it interesting that his name was not listed among the sound crew from Skywalker Sound working on this show. And for the life of me, I can't imagine a Star Wars project that's been underway in the last 2 decades that didn't feature Matt as a supervising sound director. So interesting that he is not applying.
Was David Acord on the list?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right, well, so I don't know. Maybe, I don't know if there were, who knows? The only thing I can think of is...
Hollywood. He's gone Hollywood. He's a big star now. And yeah, Bib Fortuna has propelled him to, he's going to be the next Brad Pitt. I could just sense it.
What else do we? Oh, a few things. Just some of the vocabulary I wanted to catch up on. So Boba Fett is the daimyo, and at first I thought, oh, that means Don, like Mafia Don, but it doesn't because if again, watch with the pro tip, watch with the subtitles because you can pick up a few things. Is it the butt face? Is that Aqualish?
Yes.
Yeah, the Aqualish is credited in the subtitles as being a Don. So I'm assuming that daimyo is like boss of bosses, is like the boss. That's what I'm thinking, and that is the throne upon which Boba Fett is as the daimyo. Because if he's got other Dons coming and giving him tributes, like with their delegations, like the Trandoshan and the Aqualish, then he is, I think, would be considered the boss of bosses, like John Gotti was with the Gambinos.
Is it called daimyo or daimyo? Daimyo. That's what.
Is it daimyo?
Right? I think it was daimyo.
Daimyo. Okay, you're right. I think you're right.
You guys in the chat.
Well, daimyo is Japanese. Jeremy in the chat is saying it's Japanese. So excuse my cultural ignorance. So perhaps there is a definition there.
It's interesting. I have information about that term, daimyo, from RFR Patreon supporter Dylan McGee. And Dylan, he has a PhD in Japanese studies.
Oh, okay. Right.
So he's going to come in handy, I think. He does not like that term daimyo being used in the way they're using it in this show. He says it makes him cringe.
Oh.
Here's why.
Okay.
I'm going to read his text here. In medieval and early modern Japanese history, a daimyo was a samurai who held domain over a province, maintained civil order, managed fiscal matters like taxes, and presided over high-level bureaucratic functions at the shogun capital or shogunal capital. Oh, you'll understand, Jason, starting from the Tokugawa period, of course.
Well, where was my brain?
Yeah, but no. He says a daimyo was a legit position within the samurai bureaucracy, practically the opposite of a crime lord. As upholders of shogun law, they actively reigned in guilds that might have traded in contraband, like blacksmiths, masons, etc., and policed organizations that operated in prostitution, sake brewing, temple carnivals, those crazy temple carnivals, and other potential sources of corruption and disorder. Again, kind of like the opposite of a crime syndicate. Maybe the point here was to communicate that Boba was trying to go legit, but again, if that was the point, why suggest that Boba was inheriting the title from Bib Fortuna?
Okay. All right. Hold on. Okay. Now, I think the only one that we see, I don't want to make too big a deal of this, but the only one that I think we see referring to Boba as, or that position as, the daimyo, I think it is daimyo, is the magistrate. Now, is the major domo of the mayor. Now, if you're coming from the mayor's office, also he's talking in code a lot. Notice how he's not coming out, so perhaps he's not admitting out loud, in case someone's wearing a wire, that he's dealing with a crime boss. So that could perhaps be the whitewashed, respectable title that Jabba or that person holds, just like, my friend, he's in construction, right? He's a good fella. He's in construction. He's
a friend of ours.
Yeah, right. So maybe that is something that is a way that they can kind of legitimize or the person. I don't know, but it's interesting. And if they're using it as straight up, another term for crime lord or boss of bosses, that would be in stark contrast to the Japanese definition of the title, which is more of an
everyone's saying daimyo.
All right,
that
daimyo.
sounds right. I can't pull up the dialogue in my head while looking at it because it's spelled so differently. Daimyo. Okay, we'll get it right by episode 2.
Another thing that was funny is he introduced, when they go into the Sanctuary Club, let's talk about that a little bit. So we're in Mos Espa, and I don't know about you, but it looks a little different than what it was the last time. It looked very different.
Yeah, we only saw like the south side of Mos Espa. It's a sprawling metropolis. I had no idea.
Who knew? It made me laugh out loud when, because I don't know if it was intentionally funny, but it made me laugh out loud because I feel like Boba is still kind of figuring things out, how to talk to people, how to inhabit this role. This is not something that he was groomed for. I don't feel like he spent a lot of time watching these crime lords so that he knew if he ever got the opportunity, he would, fit right in. And so when he introduces Fennec to Garsha Thwip, Jennifer Beals, in her cameo, he says, "This is Master Assassin Fennec Shan." So, do you call someone an assassin? Isn't that like saying, this is Master Thief Jimmy Mack? Like right out there, like you're, I don't know, master criminal.
That's what it says on her business card.
Yeah, right.
Fennec Shand, master.
But I laughed because I thought, is that him trying to have, do the pomp and circumstance and make everyone sound, more grandiose or something? Or is that just what you do? I guess
that's just what you do.
Another thing that I learned in this episode, there's a difference between a back to tank and a back to pod. Back to tank is upright. Back to pod is like a tanning bed. You're laying down. So
yeah,
the more you know. I was surprised, Jim, that they planted the seed like they did with those pirates raiding the homestead.
Yes.
That our buddy Paul Bateman is speculating might be Cammy and Fixer in there. Isn't that the one?
No, because they're in Anchorhead. Cammy and Fixer. They hang at Tashi Station. And that clearly is Tashi Station in those brief glimpses that we saw in the trailer, but did not see in this episode. Another example of something we've seen in trailers that is not in the first episode. And I couldn't find that quote from Rodriguez either. I'll find it.
Okay, all right. So I got my wires crossed. So in other words, because of the way the trailer was cut, I assumed that was happening. They were getting roughed up in their homestead. So that was
just a random Tatooine homestead. And I thought it was pretty cool to see. That's the only homestead we've seen in Tatooine outside of the Lars family homestead. Very similar. This one was very similar. Even had that kind of dome, that underground dome. But like that was the garage.
Right.
Right. That looked just like the Lars homestead. I thought it was the Lars homestead at first. But clearly it was a more squared off building there as opposed to the round.
Yeah, it's like houses that were built in the 50s. They all looked alike. They had those like Levittown kind of neighborhoods. They have a master plan there with the way those homesteads look. I did like the stuff with the dog. Was kind of fun. The Mastiff. The kids were really, I watched this with my kids, and they were very concerned about the dog. I mean, they were more concerned. Yeah, the Mastiff. That's a great figure too, by the way. That's going to be super popular. Everyone's going to want that, and that hasn't been released. I think there were a couple of releases of the Mastiff, starting with Attack of the Clones, and then there was something in the last. It's been a while though. I want to say that last time that was released was within maybe 10 years. So that's a really good one too. Really good.
Yeah,
so the Mastiff, Jimmy's holding it up there.
Nice little action figure here. Yeah, I had to go up into my collection and pull out a few choice action figures, but and that was one of them, the Mastiff. But yeah, very cool to see this little guy make his debut. Oh, look, the jaw even opens and closes. I didn't know that. Oh, he's kind of like a gator.
Yeah.
And he also reminds me of some of Ralph McQuarrie's art for Crate Dragons.
Oh,
okay. Just a little bit.
I thought
there's one pose that it made that in the show that made me think of the McQuarrie art.
Yeah, my kids immediately jumped to alligator, and then my daughter thought it was really cute, and then she was very upset when the big sand monster jumped out. And I got to tell you, I still don't know how I feel about the sand monster. Maybe some folks who call in.
I love the sand monster.
I did too, but I felt like it was like something out of Land of the Lost.
Well, it had a stop motion feel to it. A lot of people are saying Ray Harryhausen inspired. And
yes,
I think definitely
Clash of the Titans, exactly, like something you would have seen in that.
Yeah, and those were comments being thrown around with me and my son Dylan as we watched the episode at 2 a.m. last night. But yeah, I had that stop motion feel, and also kind of a face that reminded me a little bit of the creature from the Black Lagoon. So some people like it, some people don't like it. In the chat, I'm seeing mixed reviews for it, but I really enjoyed it.
Yeah,
I thought that was a really cool little creature, or big creature, whatever. And at first I thought, well, what is this? Did they stumble across a crate dragon?
That's what I thought. Yeah, that's exactly what I thought.
But no, it turned out to be something we'd never seen before. So, Tatooine, that's a tough place, man. you're on the surface getting smacked in the face with sandstorms. Meanwhile, right under the surface, you have 4-armed sand monsters and Sarlacc pits, and just what
it is a tough place, man.
Really,
it is a tough place to live. My daughter thought it was the Jimmy Mack holding up a beautiful. Is that a custom? Or is that the real thing? Oh, custom
Boba Fett. This is a Mandalorian Boba Fett.
Yeah,
because he's got the
kind of the skirt thing, the cloaks and all that. That's a cool.
Pretty cool.
Very cool. Man, fans are doing it so well these days. They really are. Even with after shows. Doing it back. My daughter thought that the sand monster was sort of the desert equivalent of the Wampa. That's what she was saying. She's like, oh, it's like kind of a Wampa, like. Okay, I see that. Here's the thing. Here's the credit I will give, and it will probably grow on me, and I'll want to buy the damn toy when it comes out, if it ever comes out. I'm glad that they went with something new. In that instance, I'm glad that it wasn't, same old. It wasn't another Sarlacc. It wasn't a crate dragon. They could have gone there. They didn't. They went with something new, and they went with something, Jim, as you were pointing out, with the stop motion, they went with something that sort of harkened back to the origin of Star Wars, what influenced George. And I love that Filoni and Favreau and now Rodriguez are pulling from those elements of the things that inspired Star Wars, like stop motion, and had the courage to make something not look super glamorous, CGI perfect, which, as we know, CGI isn't perfect. That's what makes it look imperfect, is that it's too perfect, if that makes sense. But so I like that a lot. And then I do think that, Slaymo. I wrote that down.
Yes.
It was great to hear Slaymo in there.
From that Rodian.
What's with that? Some folks just can't be saved. We all have people like that in our family. You throw them a life raft and they find some way to screw it up. I mean, this guy, what was wrong with it? Did he have Stockholm syndrome or something?
Yes.
Maybe he did.
And I think that, Boba was the new guy. All right. This Rodian might have been chained to that post for several weeks at this point and had tried several escapes himself. And now he's been conditioned to understand that escaping is futile. He's not going to get away with it, and he's going to get his ass whooped if he tries. So now the new kid is in town, and he's trying to escape, and he's knocking out the Mastiff and all this stuff. And the Red Rodian doesn't want to have nothing to do with it. Hey, when you were a kid, did you play on the playground? Did you guys play Red Rodian? Red Rodian, send Timmy over. Do you remember that game, Red Rodian?
I do. You know what? But my favorite game was Green Rodian, because that's what color they are. They're green. And I know that they want to show variation in these aliens and stuff, but it's been a while since we've been given a Green Rodian. Can we get one, please?
It has been, but the Red Rodian was featured in Rogue One as a member of Emphy Nest's gang. It was maybe a little more orangish than red, but it had been established a few years ago that Rodians are different colors.
Yeah.
And it might have just been a leftover mask from Rogue One.
Well,
this is a show being made on a television budget.
Yeah.
I mean, sure, it's a big budget, but it's still not a cinema budget. And it shows. I mean, really, if you want to start picking it apart, it does show. I would love to see the Mandalorian universe make it to the silver screen to really see what Favreau can do with every tool at his disposal. I mean, and a movie like that would probably establish some all new special effects and filmmaking technology along the way, if I know anything about the way Jon Favreau himself operates. So he certainly has done great work in making the technology for television go through the roof. So I think he should be given that big budget. But you do see then recycled things. So the Rodian, and also I wanted to get a better look at that one-eyed bounty hunter that had delivered the Gamorreans to Boba. He's really in the background. You don't really see him at all. And he looked familiar. He looked like a droid that could be spotted in Rise of Skywalker at the Resistance base in the background. He might be in one of the books or something, but with a different paint job. So I'm looking at this stuff saying, yeah, they're recycling wardrobe and costumes from the films.
Yeah.
Because
right.
with
It
a
could
television
be.
budget, they can't have a full-on creature shop and all that stuff. They have to take the hand-me-downs.
Yeah, I suppose that's a good possibility. I think the materials that they make those masks out of now versus what they made them, in the 70s and 80s are a little more durable. I think they last longer. So maybe they are, around from other projects. And again, I feel like we've not seen a green Rodian in long enough time. It's like, okay, we can, for a while, that's all we saw. And now all we're seeing are the red ones. So it's okay. Give us a green Rodian. Because I feel like, as we talked about, Jim, with some of the sequel films or the sequel trilogy, everything's very fleshy. Everything's very flesh toned, Caucasian, pinky, peachy. And, I'd like some bolder colors that George put in with those aliens.
Yeah, you want them to pop a little more, when they're all just one color, they kind of blend together.
I'll tell you one thing that popped was Max Rebo. Max Rebo popped. What'd you think of that little cameo?
I really liked the flamenco guitar version of the Cantina Band. Music. I really like that. I hope we get to hear that track. Is something we can download because the guy was shredding. It was a bit playing flamenco guitar. And I think the name of that track is actually Cantina Latina. So, yeah. So, definitely playing
maybe a Lin-Manuel Miranda arrangement, since he did, didn't he do he did the tune for,
he did Jabba Flow.
Jabba Flow, that's right.
Yeah, but so again, a television budget, so probably not Lin-Manuel.
Probably not. Though he's a big fan, so yeah.
Two names doing the score though: Ludwig Göransson and some other guy. Last name, I think. Oh, Shirley. Shirley, you must be joking.
Don't call me.
I'm not joking, and don't call me Shirley.
I don't know. But, I don't have it in my credits list here.
I'll pull it up on IMDb, but yeah, it appears that Ludwig is conceiving the themes, but the heavy lifting of doing the majority of the score is going to another composer. And like I said, his last name is Shirley, I believe. I couldn't be more slow pulling up the information I need here.
Yeah.
I just clicked on a link and it took me.
Well,
to Disney
you
Plus.
bringing up the bounty hunter who brought in the Gamorreans is a great example of just, there's something to be seen in every shot. There's a lot of detail. I know there's probably tons of things that I missed. I want to go back real quick and touch on the Sanctuary. This was Garza Thwip's place, played by Jennifer Beals. It was like a bar / spa / casino. Maybe it was more of a casino.
Now, the way I look at it, Boba went into Mos Espa to get his helmet polished at a brothel.
Well, that is one way. That is one way to describe what happened. I don't think that's it's that far off. There was the hunky shirtless Twi'lek, guy coming up and asking for it. Okay. All right. I'm going to stop there. But it seemed, it just was, it's not what you would expect on Tatooine. You expect things being dirtier, sandier, and seedier. But this place was maybe a cut above. This was not your Mos Eisley cantina, that's for sure.
No. Yeah, well, it's not a place for scum and villainy necessarily. Or is it? Because it is a place that is, paying tribute to the Tatooine crime lord. So obviously there is a seedy element to the place. But they do call it the Sanctuary, and maybe that's just because it's like the cleanest place on Tatooine.
Yeah.
I don't.
Well, you can't. We shouldn't assume that there's corruption there.
Oh, yes, we can. Yes, we can.
How?
Because they're taking their. It's a front for mobster activity.
Well, I don't know, because that could have been protection money. It could have been part of a protection racket. He uses the term vassal.
Yeah,
Jabba had many vassals, and that is it's almost like a feudal system kind of thing.
Yes.
And I just sort of assumed it was like the old day. You're from Chicago. It was the old days. Like they would walk in, they'd be like, "This is a nice flower shop."
Yeah.
Fires happen once in a while. It's like insurance.
Of course, all Chicagoans experience that. Yeah. When I was a kid working at Lou Malnati's Pizza in the kitchen, every once in a while, Jimmy 4 times and his cousin Bruno would come in and shake me down for that pizza delivery cash that I for protection money. We all go through that here.
It's a Chicago thing, but I guess that's what I assumed.
Maybe I was just overthinking when she says, help yourself to whatever you want around here. This place is yours after all.
Right. That's true. She did say that.
So I thought it was just some sort of front, maybe used, to launder money for the mobsters or whatever. But it really appears like the crime lord works like right out in the open. So obviously Boba is going to have to work out these issues he has with the mayor of Mos Espa, which is that hammerhead.
Yeah, the Trandoshan.
No,
or
the hammerhead.
Not. Yeah, right. The Ithorian. Thank you. Sorry, not Trandoshan.
I'm fine with hammerheads and walrus mans and all that. All that
it
stuff.
counts.
We don't
it
have
counts.
to get so exact about it.
Right.
But yeah, so he's got a lot of places like that in Mos Espa, in Mos Eisley, all around Tatooine. And I thought it was kind of weird that the focus was on Mos Espa and not Mos Eisley, because I thought Jabba was maybe more like in proximity, closer to Mos Eisley. I don't know why I always thought that.
I thought the same thing. I think it's because we saw him, in Mos Eisley looking for Han Solo.
Right. But we also saw him in Mos Espa watching the races.
Right.
And they say Jabba owns that racetrack too.
All right. So that's home base.
So yeah, apparently his palace is closer than to Mos Espa.
Yeah.
Than I had assumed. His palace, I had always heard, was on the border of the Dune Sea. But, Dune Sea has sevele coasts. So he lives on the Mos Espa coast as opposed to the Mos Eisley coast.
We both thought the same thing. Let's check in with folks. You've been very patient. If you're waiting, we're going to get to your calls here in just a second. The number to call is 708-866-1737. 708-866-1737. We're going to start off with Scott from California. Hey, Scott, you're on with Rebel Force Radio. Hello, Scott. Let's try that.
Scotty, my boy.
Hey, Scott.
Hello there.
Hello. What's going on?
Oh, not much. Is this? I'm sorry. I'm trying to.
Yeah, turn down your computer.
Hey, I have some questions. I did. Okay. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
Hey, Jason and Jimmy, it's great to talk to you guys, and I just so happy of all the joy and fun and Star Wars you bring to this world.
Well, thank you very much, and thanks for being a Patreon supporter. Really appreciate it, Scott.
Oh, yeah, you're very welcome. You bring much joy and peace in my heart. Hey, I just wanted to ask about that little wiggly thing on his front left shoulder when he just claws his way out of the Sarlacc. and I'm wondering if that was a grub or something, or whether that's just a piece of thread in the wind. You know what I'm talking about?
God, first of all, you terrified me when you said, I want to talk about that wiggly thing on. What? I don't know. I didn't notice. I mean, there was so much, and it was very dark. There was a lot of like slimy things sticking out all over the place in there. Well, you're talking about this was actually on Boba?
Yeah.
No,
Yeah, it looked like it. Yeah. That was pretty neat. He was a little goopy from crawling out of that thing. But yeah, it looked like he got a grub or some kind of parasite crawled into him and was crawling out of his front shoulder, you know. Like,
oh, that's gross.
Look at it again and you might see what I'm talking about.
I will. It'll be all I can see if that's the case. And anything growing out of a guy is pretty nasty. That was, there was, I thought, a lot of really cool detail. I would have loved to have seen an Easter egg other than Boba Fett, seen an Easter egg of somebody else from the skiff battle.
If I can just interrupt for a second, I believe it's the Wookiee braid that he wore. I think that's
really?
what Scott's seeing.
Braid?
On his shoulder.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it was
what I'm
floating around, but it only looked like it was crawling around.
Oh, it was wet.
Let's see if I can show you the.
Yeah.
Oh,
Right. Now we want to look. This is hard for me to do here.
You're looking at it, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, maybe you can't see it, Scott, but yeah, Jimmy's got the scene where he just comes out of the sand. Ugh. Wow. All right.
I'm Boba Fett.
All right.
I hate
Well,
sand.
I just thought that was kind of crazy, and I thought I'd ask about it. But that was neat how he crawled out, like you say, Jason, out of the side of the Sarlacc.
Right.
And it's believable. And finally, now we know how he got out of the Sarlacc. He didn't.
Yeah.
And he used one of the tools that only Boba Fett had at the time with that flame ray of his that seemed to be what it took to cut himself out of the side of the Sarlacc. So now we know.
Now we know. Now we know. Hey, Scott, thanks very much, man. Appreciate the call.
I hate sand. It's coarse and rough and gets everywhere.
Let's check in with another Patreon. This is Matt. Matt calling from Houston, Texas. Hello, Matt. Welcome to the...
Chut, gentlemen.
Hello, Chut. What's on your mind?
I really enjoyed this. Well, I enjoyed this episode. There were nits to pick, of course, but what I'm really enjoying about this that I'm not hearing a lot of people talk about is, when we were kids, Boba Fett was this almost godlike. And now we're seeing him, he gets in a fight and he has to run to the back-to-pod. He's the old man who exerts himself and needs to hit the inhaler now. He's no longer, godlike. And I believe him more now. His body's all messed up from the Sarlacc Pit. And that just makes him cooler to me. And I'm trying to think of another example where we've had a masked character take his mask off and he's still cool. Like when Vader unmasked, like when we got to know the man behind the mask with Vader, a lot of us at first were like, oh, he's just this whiny kid. Boba Fett is still awesome. And so at any rate,
no, I think you're right. I think that I agree with that. I think Tim Morrison has a coolness factor about him. I like it, but I also like the fact that he's proving to be not completely infallible. As Jim was pointing out a while ago, it seems like maybe Fennec and even 8D8 might be a little more wise when it comes to, the ways of the underworld. Boba Fett might be, I don't want to say he's idealistic, but maybe he has a little bit too much confidence in himself and his, maybe he thinks that other people are just as perhaps honorable, if we can use that word, as he is, and that's likely to not be the case, but very cool. What else? Yeah.
he's almost like another Star Wars character that is great combatant, but can't really maneuver the politics.
Yeah.
But at any rate, you know, you were talking earlier about the flashbacks, and there's two I'm really hoping to see. I'm hoping to see him change up his daddy's armor, because we never got a story about that. And I'm also hoping to see one of the few deleted scenes that hasn't been brought back in the Filoni-verse in some fashion. I want to see the helmet get dented.
Yeah. Okay. I think, first of all, I agree. I would love to see those things. I don't see that happening here. I don't think they're going to go any further back. In fact, if you look at the flashbacks that kind of opened the episode, we saw the waters of Camino. We did see the Battle of Geonosis. In fact, we saw footage of Daniel Logan as young Boba Fett, so he gets an IMDb credit as being in this episode.
That was an alternate take from episode 2.
I thought it looked new.
He puts the helmet to his head and everything. That was an alternate take. The shot where they look over his shoulder and you see the back of his head and he's looking at the helmet and you can kind of see his reflection in the T-visor. That was a body double. That was new footage.
Oh, that was new. Okay.
Yeah, but the actual footage of him grabbing the helmet, putting it to his head, the shot we're so familiar with, it was an alternate take from those filming sessions back in the early 2000s. Young Daniel Logan.
Yeah, very cool.
So that was nice to see.
That's a deep cut. That's cool.
Yeah,
that is a deep cut.
But I will say, Matt, I mean, I don't know that I could be wrong. I don't know that this series is going to tackle that far back in Boba. But again, we did see a flashback of Geonosis. We did see the waters of Camino. So who knows? And they are all part of those dreams. Yeah, they're all part of those dreams that he tells Fennec are back. The dreams are back. And that's, guys lived a heck of a life.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Oh, thank you, Matt. Appreciate it. Thanks for the support on Patreon.
All right.
The dreams are back, Fennec. I have to quit eating burritos right before bedtime.
I did think the needing to get back to the pod was get me to my pod. Dude, you just got out of the pod. You've been out of the pod for an hour.
Now we need to finish the flashbacks.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Exactly. Who we got? We got Toronto calling. This is Miles, also a Patreon supporter. Hello, Miles.
Hey, fellas. Chut.
Chut.
Oh, thanks for having me on.
Of course.
I got to say, man, I was a big fan of this episode. It was pretty much what I was expecting. My only real complaint is that it wasn't long enough. I was hoping for at least an hour.
I'd have liked to see it be longer too.
And I got to say, I was a big fan of that Major Domo character. I get why he feels a little out of place. He didn't feel like the classic Star Wars, but I think he brings an interesting new sort of dynamic to the underworld, and he's got this kind of sassy, pompous attitude, and I really want to see him get his comeuppance. And I'm wondering if maybe before he walks away, he says, "You will be receiving another delegation," and I wonder if that's who we saw attack them in Mos Espa, and if we're going to see a real rivalry stem from this.
Yeah, I think that was the delegation he was referring to. And when we saw the trailer and we were doing the breakdown, I remember we were like, okay, so they're uniformed. So that implies, organization, and really what they seem to be is police. I would assume they're from the mayor's office. They are uniformed police. And
do you think they're from the mayor's office?
Yeah, I think so. I think they are.
I think that they have a name, this group. They have a name. I stumbled across it when I was looking at some credits earlier today, and I was specifically looking at stunt work that was being done on this episode. And it mentions stunt doubles for Tim Morrison, full armor stunt double for Ming-Na Wen. Where is the stunt performer? Because it gave a name to these guys who are hopping all over those, doing the parkour, hopping all over the the rooftops.
There are many Office references in the house tonight to parkour during that scene. But yeah, so I assumed, I don't know, Miles, if you felt the same way. You were suggesting that they were the delegation. They all were, I mean, outside of the old Batman TV show, when do henchmen all wear like the same uniform? Like they had a uniform look to them.
I had a feeling that's where they were coming from, and whether or not they're under an official capacity. I mean, maybe this mayor that the Major Domo represents is also himself, I think, clearly some sort of crime lord. So these could be his own sort of private militia he hires or something like that.
Yeah, that's true too. They could just be mercenaries, I guess, for hire, or private security or something. I don't know. My thought was that, why dress them all alike? Seemed kind of weird. But I thought that's
either way. I can't wait to see where it goes.
Yeah, man. I will agree to disagree on the Major Domo, but I love that you have an alternate view. I mean, I like the fact that you see the same thing I do and you see it in a different way, and that's cool. So really appreciate it. Thanks for being a Patreon supporter. Thanks for the call, and hope to hear from you again.
Right on, no problem, guys.
All right, buddy.
Good night. Yeah.
All right, I have the Robert Rodriguez quote that we were talking about at the top of the show. It was actually with the Austin Chronicle, which I believe is his hometown newspaper, the Austin Chronicle. He gave them an interview and said, "What you see in the trailer is in the first 15 minutes of episode 1. So people have no idea what's in store. It's going to blow their minds." So obviously he's way wrong, because the first thing you see in the trailer is that Bomar Monk walking outside of Jabba's palace, and that vision was nowhere to be seen in this episode. So, Rodriguez is wrong about that. And I wonder why he would say something like that, because obviously he's familiar with the footage, and he should, I mean, the sit down with the other crime lords inside the palace at that table. How many times have we seen?
Oh my God!
In the trailer and
I can tell you, I watched every TV spot and every trailer tonight, assembling our little intro, and it was in every one. Everyone.
And nowhere to be seen in the first 15 minutes of episode 1. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
And so maybe there was some editing going on. A lot of people are speculating that this series was only supposed to be 6 episodes and now it's 7. So some people are thinking that maybe the first episode was split in half. This is all speculation. I have no idea, but I just find it so odd that Rodriguez would say that. What you see in the trailer is in the first 15 minutes of episode 1, because that is very inaccurate. And
it is for sure.
So maybe Robert Rodriguez, he's got a lot on his plate. He can't
know what project he's talking about.
Trailers. He doesn't know.
Let's check in with Bryce from Southern California. Bryce, I got to ask if there are any chubby actors out there that could play these Gamorreans. Welcome to the show.
Yeah. Hi, Jason. Hi, Jimmy.
Hey, buddy.
And thanks, Tyler, for taking my call.
Yes, we all thank Tyler. Thank you, Tyler.
Yeah. I don't know. You put me on the spot with that one, but
that's okay. What did you call to talk about?
Sure. I'm loving these flashbacks, as I lovingly refer to them.
Well played.
Yes, very good, sir.
Just sort of a lost vibe to them, and jumping around in the timeline, and I'm wondering if we could see. I got a quick question here about that, but then a over/under game for you guys. But could we see Boba's sister Omega in these flashback bits?
No way. That won't happen. That won't happen. This is going to tie. You know why? Because Jon Favreau had nothing to do with that, and this is all going to tie into the events happening after Return of the Jedi and The Mandalorian. I wouldn't really look outside of anything else for Omega. I'm still, there's a rumor out there, spoiler alert, whatever. But some people are saying that Cad Bane's going to show up in this series. I think they're just pulling stuff out of their butts. the security.
I don't know, man. I got to
was
tell you what,
locked
on
down.
the Cad Bane thing, you know, when we looked at that Eclipse trailer for that video game, and I saw that, you know, Cad species looking very photoreal and very, it made sense. Very different, not very different, but it was a great interpretation of the original design that we saw in A New Hope. And boy, I wouldn't hate it if we saw Cad Bane. And it looks like they got a really good model there. And I got to tell you, I mean, I agree in one sense. Yeah, don't be looking for Omega and stuff like that. But look at how much Filoni wants to tie in, has already tied in Rebels and other things. I think there's a desire there for a real desire to tie in all these shows together. Look, if I had a list of 100 characters that were going to show up in, you know, Book of Boba Fett, I don't know that Omega would be in the top 100, but I wouldn't say it's not a possibility.
Well, anything's a possibility, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think it's a total long shot. And,
yeah, because they really haven't. Here, to Jimmy's point, they haven't really, even in Bad Batch, they haven't really proven the relationship. You know what I mean? So it'd be one thing if they had already established in Bad Batch that there was that there was a connection. I don't feel like they've done it. They haven't closed the loop on that. They've sort of hinted at it, but it's not a strong enough plot point to where it would show up. So I'm going to change my mind. I'm going to say, Bryce, not going to happen. No Omega.
And I hate to be like season 2. We might see the end of the whole crew, but I don't know. But so I got this over/under thing of the chance of seeing Boba go after Mace Windu at 30%, over or under.
And are you talking full-blown Sam Jackson cameo here?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I say no.
And he has expressed his desire, but
well, of course.
Okay.
I say no.
Boy. Okay. So I was talking to a friend of mine today about kind of this sort of thing, because he was asking if Boba Fett has a problem with the Jedi because of his history. And I said, well, yes, I believe he does. I don't know if he still is carrying this. And I said, I think we'll see it unfold, and Luke Skywalker, I believe, will be the catalyst in some way of whether or not Boba has this grudge against the Jedi. But if that's going to be a payoff, do we need a reminder as to why? Because in that flashback, we did not see Sam Jackson. We actually didn't see Jango Fett being decapitated. So for the sake of the audience, they might need to go there, in which case, okay, I'm going the opposite view. I think, yes, over 30% chance, over 30. I'm not a betting guy, so I don't know what any of this means. But I'm assuming it means over 30% chance that we'll see a Mace Windu flashback. I say yes. Jimmy says
my heart agrees with you, Jason, and then my realistic goes under. So
yeah, I wouldn't mind. And we know that Sam Jackson, like Ming-Na Wen, does not age, so the guy could completely pull it off. Hey, by the way, my grandpa's name was Bryce. I love seeing that name show up. It's not a common name. So cool. Thanks for calling, Bryce.
Thank you.
Appreciate it very much, man.
All right.
Thanks for the support here and on Patreon. All right. So I did ask our next caller to call in because I knew that he was hanging out. He was having a party. Our pal, Kevin Lyle, is joining us. He's hanging out with Glenn Nelson from High Adventure. Glenn Nelson and Stu. And I said... So I got a text. Hold on. I got a text from Kevin about the episode. And I said, well, just call into the show tonight. And he goes, well, by that time, I'll be pretty hammered. And I said, that makes it even better. So are you there, Kevin? Are you conscious?
Yeah, I'm here. And I told you that if you had me on the show and it's at 10 o'clock, we're going to be drinking because we started we watched the episode today at 4, and we were drinking since then. So that's 6 hours. And actually, I've been waiting. you had me waiting for an hour, so it's an extra hour. So I'm here. We had High Adventure here at Glenn Nelson's house to watch the episode, and about a third of High Adventure still left, and we're all sitting here. And the thing is you guys do such a good job on your show. Everything I wanted to talk about, you guys mentioned. The time in the Sarlacc Pit.
I don't know. Kevin, you're good for one of those things we haven't talked about. We've had many great conversations.
Give us one of your patented Lyle observations.
I as an artist and a lover of heavy metal, I like the idea that the episode was called "Stranger in a Strange Land," and the Tuscans looked awesome because they heavy metal Iron Maiden look, and I thought it was freaking tastic. And that was there was many parts I liked, and you guys have already gone over it. But I thought it was a really cool episode, and Max Rebo being there, and the Gamorreans could have been fatter. Steve Constantino, a friend of mine in L.A., he would be great to play a Gamorrean. He's in his 60s now. He might be maybe he can play him. I don't know. But overall, I thought the episode was good. It was great. It was great to see it. The whole Sarlacc Pit. I think that was my favorite.
Was that satisfying, Kevin? A lot of people are saying it wasn't long enough. We didn't spend enough time there.
I felt, and I talk us over with Glenn and the guys. The thing is that if it went on for 5 or 6 or 7 minutes, it would have been the same thing. You're not going to talk to the Sarlacc Pit. The Sarlacc Pit doesn't have a weapon. Right. It's just a big, gigantic stomach, and he would have been going from organ to organ, and it would have gotten old quickly. So I think they did the right thing by just having him. He uses his flamethrower, kills the thing, and for some weird reason, he gets out like 15 meters from it. But I've always imagined him crawling out of the mouth the same way he went.
Yeah, me too.
They chose to do something different.
No, he went through the side door. I don't even think he went through the back door.
Oh, maybe he did. Maybe he went out the butt. Sarlacc butt.
Right.
Hey, Kevin brings up an interesting point about the Tuscan Raiders. We are seeing a different tribe than we've ever seen before. Obviously, by their different looks, they were more black than sand colored. Like this is your typical Tuscan Raider, right?
Yeah.
And Paul Bateman put it really well.
We called him the seventh son of the seventh son.
What's that?
I'm calling that tribe seventh son of the seventh son after Iron Maiden.
Oh, more Maiden. Oh, so for those who don't know, "The Stranger in a Strange Land" is an Iron Maiden song. It's the first track from
Somewhere in Time.
Somewhere in Time, yes. Thank you. Like mid-'80s Iron Maiden, when they were really at their peak, too. It's a great album, great song. And Jason pointed out before the show started, it's also a Billy Joel lyric.
Yeah, right. He's talking about Stranger in a Strange Land, the novel.
Billy Joel and Iron Maiden.
Yeah. Okay.
Billy Joel. Yeah, see, we go Iron Maiden first, you and me, Kevin.
Yeah.
Swank goes Billy Joel, of course.
What can I tell you? Why would you expect anything less?
And it's Swank has every album Barry Manilow, for crying out loud.
I might. I can't really argue with that one.
No, he's a fan of.
Hey, you know what, guys? Hey guys, speaking of music, because I've got High Adventure here, and Glenn Nelson's with me. He'd like to make a couple comments about music, if that's okay, about this episode.
Oh, sure,
Yes.
sure.
We haven't talked about the music.
Hey, Glenn.
Hey, boys, what's up? It's Glenn. How you doing?
All right. So, what were your ears hearing during this episode?
Hey, well, for one thing, far less recorders than on Mandalorian. There were no recorders, no bass recorders, no altos, no sopranos.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and more male singing, more male shouting, more like Hans Zimmer, like percussion. But let's get to the heart of the matter. The heart of the matter is when we walk into the bar there, and we have the ortolan playing with the bits, and you're wondering, like, first of all, I thought it was the jazz version of Cantina, which Jimmy verified. I'm like, first of all, didn't Max Rebo die on the sail barge? Like, for one thing, so does every ortolan play combo organ? Like, what's going on here?
No, that was Max.
I think that was Max. Was he on was he on the barge?
No, Max was on the sailboat.
Yes.
Max is dead.
No, that was
Max. Is dead.
He survived. You can see it. It's in a Robot Chicken episode. Which is
You got any rope? You guys got any room? Hey, Jazz man.
But,
are we
I'll
going?
also tell you
Is
that
Robot Chicken canon?
If you
It
want
might
to see
have to
more
be now.
inside the Sarlacc Pit too, you could check out Robot Chicken.
Man, I gotta get you a gig, man.
Yeah, well, that's
I got a
the thing.
gig.
That's oh man,
He's got a gig. He's got a gig. I gotta get you a gig.
Sauce Noodle's dead.
And
all right, you guys got to
well,
get
all
back
right.
to
I guess when you got to get you a gig, you got to get you a gig.
Yes, for sure. Well, no, really appreciate you guys calling in, Kevin. I'm sorry I made you wait.
And Stu has one final thought on the music. Stu, go ahead.
Stu?
Hey, I'm just wondering, Ludwig, to use an SNL skit, we need more trombone.
More
Stu says more
trombone.
trombone. Back to you, Jason and Jimmy.
Musician humor. You gotta love it. Thanks, guys. Sounds like they're all having a really good time. And of course, Kevin Lyle is the guy that put together our Chut Chut shirt. And those Chut Chut shirts are still available at rebelforceradio.com. So thanks
But I really
to Kevin.
dug the different looks of the Tuscan Raiders. And as Paul Bateman put it in an email to us earlier today, that it makes sense for these nomads to have different looks as you would encounter them in the desert. So they're not all like dressed like this.
Right,
because Paul's like, that's a uniform.
Yes,
and the Tuscans wouldn't necessarily be known for wearing uniforms. But I think they get there's a spirituality that connects all the Tuscans. And that's why they have similar looks and things like that. It's more than just trying to protect themselves from life in the Tatooine suns, but there's a spiritual aspect to these guys bandaging themselves up.
Yeah.
And a lot of people were looking at the youngling and saying that he was like Asherad Het from the Dark Horse comics.
Because everybody's got to be somebody, right? Everybody's got to be somebody.
Well, he even got an action figure, as you can see, and he was a Jedi Tuscan, right?
Yes,
and if you ever wondered, there he is. That's a Tuscan. It's kind of hard to get.
Okay, because my kids were wondering. They said, "Well, have we ever seen them without the helmet?" And I said, "Well, there have been some artist, concepts of what they would look like underneath the mask, the breathing mask, and the helmet. I didn't realize they were so humanoid. Some of the things that I've seen, like there was a Topps trading card, I believe it was back in the day, of what a Tuscan might look like, and it was pretty nasty. There's Asherad Het.
He's in there too. But yeah, these guys were in the comics back in the early prequel era, Dark Horse Comics, the Star Wars line, and it was a story about a Jedi who grew up with the Tuscans.
Let's talk to Eric from Texas, first-time caller. Welcome, Eric. Thanks for calling in.
Hey, Chut, guys. This is Father Eric. I'm a Catholic priest in Texas. I've been listening to you guys since about 2014.
Thank you, Father.
Hey,
Thanks for calling in. Appreciate it.
No problem. It's good to hear you guys' voices and talk to you. So,
likewise.
Had a few things to comment on. One is I think that the show, I think and feel, one of the most elegant ways, at least post-Lucas with Disney, that both the prequel and original trilogies are followed up on at the same time. I didn't really feel that elegance with the sequels. There's just something special that the original Django actor from the prequels, it's just such a direct and meaningful follow-up to, specific events of episode 6. I think it's a very graceful way to reach fans of each. I can say as a prequel kid, it's very meaningful to have Tamara Morrison back. And then another thing I just wanted to throw out there was I think that I like the kind of, you can say, I kind of think artsiness that the pace of a TV show allows as opposed to a movie. Something specific I have in mind with that I caught. I noticed kind of an ongoing symbolism of water and sand in the show. So in flashbacks, you have the Camino flashback kind of representing security of his childhood where, despite the inclement weather, he's protected by his dad and, that kind of sterile infrastructure of, what's it called, Topeka City, right? And then you got the stands of Geonosis in that flashback. Just kind of the greedy chaos of his dad dying. And then So the water and the sand, and then these buried water capsules on Tatooine that are sought after, just the kind of awful, lonely conditions on Tatooine in the Tatooine sand after he climbs out, he's just like coated in it, you can almost feel it. And then this emphasis on this like womb-like Bacta capsule, which I think is actually pretty similar to those embryonic capsules on Camino. So kind of like water-like imagery there. So
yeah,
just like a kind of artsy thing I picked up on. It may mean nothing. It may not have been intended, but it leapt off screen to me in a pretty strong way.
Wow, that's very cool. I love that. I love that. And because again, sometimes, I've read about artists and how sometimes it's not a conscious thing that they're doing, but if you believe in a certain way, that other forces are at work, and sometimes those themes have a way of emerging, sometimes in spite of or despite of the storyteller. So that's very, very cool. Yeah. Thank you very much for that.
There's a biblical reference in the title, "Stranger in a Strange Land."
Oh yeah, my gosh, that went over my head. But yeah, I don't think you're wrong there. Well, what specifically are you thinking of?
Somebody needs to start studying the good book a little harder, I think. Exodus 2:22, and he called his name Gershom, for he said, "I have been a stranger in a strange land." Moses naming his son.
Got it.
Wow. I love the symbolism, Father. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Thanks for calling in. Have you been listening to the show for a while?
Yeah, guys, I go back to when I was I picked you guys up when I was actually in seminary I was in seminary in Rome, Italy, and I picked you guys up first with old Forcecast episodes because I got into Clone Wars, and then I realized how you guys were still around for Rebel Force Radio. So it's been since then. So thank you guys for all you do.
That's fantastic. Thank you for all that you do in helping to make the world a better place. So appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Fardog. Thank you, Fardog, in the chat for giving me the biblical reference.
Yeah, right.
I didn't know myself. Stranger in a Strange Land is also a book title by Robert A. Heinlein.
By the way,
Billy Sherman tells us that in the chat.
I don't do this very often, and probably to our detriment. But we have almost 500 people. We were peaking around at one point 700 people listening. Hit that like button if you would. We're not native YouTubers. We're podcasters from back in the day. But hit the like button. We've got 173 likes right now. So please, it costs you nothing. Hit the like button. It'll help get this show out there for others to enjoy.
Yeah, we see these other YouTubers, and they're getting hundreds of thousands of hits on their videos. Like, what are we doing? But you're right. Jason puts it best. We are podcasters. We're the #1 Star Wars podcast ranked on iTunes, and it's been that way for a long time. So we need that kind of mojo on YouTube a little bit.
Yes. Yeah.
I think it's we do the YouTube thing sometimes.
Right. Exactly.
I think that's what the deal is you got to do it all the time. Like the same video 3 times a day. You need to do that in 5 to 7 minute chunks. Right. And
it's just not, that's just not our style, man.
That's not our style. Now the chunks, that's probably up to you when you listen to provide that.
Let's see. We got Jeff calling in from Maryland. Hello, Jeff. Welcome to Rebel Force Radio and our after show here. Looking at the Book of Boba Fett.
Hey, Jason and Jimmy.
Hello.
Hey, buddy.
How are you guys? Hey, so good to talk to you. Chut. I kind of got a little bit of a prophet or a loser, and it has to do with just to get it out of the way. Will Chut make a vocal cameo this season? I'm really hoping it does.
Man. Not if Dave Filoni has anything to say about it. No, I don't know. I don't know. It would be great to hear. We heard Slaymo. I love Huttese. It's such a colorful language. If I could speak a Star Wars language, it would definitely be. I'll bet swearing. It just sounds so good in Huttese,
Chut. We got to. Well, the trick is we got to get the Chut shirt to Favreau because he's the one writing these episodes. So we need Favs to get on board the Chut wagon.
That'd be great.
Hey, we just get. We've got all these viewers on YouTube. Let's get this campaign going, and they can just put it in there like they erased the guy that shouldn't have been in the Mandalorian. So,
the guy with the shorts.
That's right.
Or the
but
jeans.
hey, a little bit of a theory. We were talking about the Sand People, and then Jimmy was, of course, showing us that Jedi. And when I saw those Sand People in the black, I just had this thought: what if they're humanoid under there, and they're, I don't know, possibly exiled Jedi followers who are, trying to hide out from the Empire, and they're masking themselves as Sand People. And just wanted to see what you guys thought about that, and whether they might develop that in the show.
That's a wild theory. I would expect if they were Jedi, if they were Force users, if they were Force sensitive, if they were followers of the Force, and some light side way, that they would be a little more compassionate. They wouldn't be torturing people and holding people captive. But I do like the idea. I like the concept of people hiding out disguised as Tuscans. I mean, what a great way to hide. Really, when you think about it, and I think we're going to discover that Boba Fett in some ways does do, in fact, that. I don't think he's hiding from anything in particular, but he's certainly finding comfort and belonging and all of that, from this Tuscan tribe. We can assume.
I was just getting this really, really strong, like, incest nest crew feeling. And I don't know if it's just that the way that they were dressing them and changing the look. But I just had this feeling like, that somewhere they're going to unmask, somebody in that group. Maybe it was the person that gave Boba Fett the butt whooping. I have that sort of like, that the Jedi sense that something is coming, and we'll see what pans out with that. But while I'm on, I just want to thank you guys, you and Jimmy, you and Jason, for so many years of getting me through so many commutes and lawn mowing and house projects, and just to let you guys know that RFR is always in my ear. And I just really appreciate you guys, and want to wish you a Happy New Year.
Gosh, that's so nice of you. Thank you very, very much. It's our pleasure. It really is. And just thank you. Thanks very much. Happy New Year to you, Jeff from Maryland.
Some of these super chats.
Oh, yeah, let's do that. I'm sorry. I've got some up here. This is from Echo Base. Very kind of them. Did either of you think his fighting style, I'm assuming Boba Fett, was a little lame compared to what we see him do in Mando? Also, I hate the Gamorrean guards in this. When did they start looking like fat white guys? Yeah, they do. I said they had dad bods.
The Gamorreans in Return of the Jedi were wearing full body suits.
Right.
These guys are big dudes painted green.
They really are.
Again, television budget.
Right.
But,
come on, a little fat suit wouldn't be hard. Boba's fighting style, Jim, here's what I think it comes down to, in my judgment. You tell me what you think. I think that it comes down to a different way of shooting it, a different way of editing it. I don't think Tem's doing anything different. I wouldn't say that it's being choreographed differently. Is it as snappy and as brutal as Mando? No, I don't think so. But I think it's in the way that it's being pieced together. That's my thought. I don't know. I could be wrong.
Well, in the Mando, he just brutally mowed down the stormtroopers in a display of shock and awe.
Mm-hmm.
In this show, he's getting a little more challenged by his combatants. So it's actually a fight. I don't think we saw any fighting in The Mandalorian. I think we saw Boba unleash a can of whoop ass.
Yes.
True.
Yes.
Very, very brutally too.
Yes.
But it was very one-sided, wasn't it?
Yeah.
This is more, they had him outnumbered. They caught him by surprise. and his Gamorreans were a block away. What were they doing? You know,
I don't know. It was great to see him come in, you know, and pay off that conversation he and Fennec had. Here comes the cavalry. But yeah, what were they doing? Eating that popcorn that Wrecker likes so much? What is it?
Mantel mix. They serve that on Mos Espa.
I don't know.
But it was, you know, they had them surrounded with those shields, close quarters. I think there was a lot going on there. And it was more give and take than just the one-sided, brutal beatdown.
I watched it a couple of times because I started seeing things percolating online, some criticism about that fight. And when I watched it the second time, I was really looking at it carefully. And I think you bring up a great point about the shields and how tight everything was. I don't think they didn't have room to do some of the bone-crushing stuff that we saw in Mando.
No. And then, of course, Boba, I almost called him Django, Boba got injured.
Yeah.
So they had to, you know, take him to the back to tank because it's time for flashbacks. Are we going to be getting every flashback in the back to tank throughout this season? Will that become sort of a trope? Get in the back to tank and have a flashback. I don't know.
The flashback to tank. I love that.
Flashback to. But I do like the usage of the flashbacks to fill in the blanks. And again, it is done very Godfather 2-esque, where it just reveals itself as the story moves along. I like that a lot. Again, I'm predicting that Boba is going to end up riding with these Tuscans, or riding with them, just, you know, camping out with them or whatever. I think he's going to do it for a while because there's going to be something that keeps him there. And I think it's going to be a woman. That's what I think.
Okay.
And that's why I think you had that Tuscan, and she was very formidable, unlike, you know, the
Jim with the action figures. It's like puppet theater going.
Yeah, it's fun.
I can tell he's like a prop comic with these.
But you see, you know.
Yes, look at that.
You see this one? She's not my type.
But you know,
I like them. I like them when they can kick ass.
And you know, she's got the little papoose here, you know,
little youngling.
You know, you didn't see much of this going on.
Great figures.
So
are those episode 2 figs?
Yes, they are.
Yeah, those are great.
And there she is. And still, she could probably kick butt herself, but you know, very different look. This is the first time we really got an alternate look at a Tuscan, was episode 2 with these female Tuscans.
Yeah.
But now there's there's a little difference between a female Tuscan and a male Tuscan as far as their look, their fighting ability. I liked how she had the long hair in the back. I thought that was a cool look.
Man, I got to go back and watch it because it was totally lost on me that it was a female. It really was.
And so, and then that's cool. She's going to be the one.
The one.
She's going to be the one for Boba. Yeah.
All right. Here's Mo.
The next thing you know, there'll be a little Boba running around.
Oh boy. Oh boy. And there's no way out of that. Here's Mo with a super chat. Thank you so much, Mo. That's very, very kind. What was the significance of the Nikto gangsters wearing denim jackets? R.I.P. Paul Bateman. He's assuming that that's just going to kill Paul, wearing the denim jackets that raid the hut and take off on speeders while Boba's looking from the dune, recognize the symbol they painted on the hut. That was a kind of a blink and you miss it. I thought, as we talked about earlier, that was foreshadowing of what was going to happen with the Cammy Fixer, what is being proposed as being thought as the Cammy and Fixer. Jim corrected me and said, no, different setting. So Jim, your take on that is just, that's a glimpse into sort of the reality of living there on, on Tatooine and Mos Espa. It's very lawless and there are gangs, or do you think that that's planting the seeds of something that we're going to see, pay off later on?
Right. Both. I think this is, as you say, it's definite foreshadowing. I think what's being established here, are they wearing denim jackets? I don't know.
Jimmy's scrubbing through the episode on his iPad here.
I am. I just wanted to see for myself if this will come.
Are they wearing denim jackets?
Wait, let me get them. Oh no, did I jump back?
I don't know. I still see the guys.
Yeah, they were there and then now they're gone. I have to get back. My
Paul Bateman, if you're listening, are they wearing denim?
I don't think
Can
they
you
are.
confirm?
I don't think they are, unless maybe before they went to that homestead, they did a smash and grab at the Moss Espa Gap. I don't know. Are there still Gap stores anywhere? Do they still exist? I don't know.
I don't know.
But I don't think they're wearing denim jackets. It appears they're wearing some kind of like biker gang, like Hell's Angels sort of garb.
Yeah, and I don't recognize the symbol. I don't know that we were supposed to. Does anybody out there? Is that an established
no
gang
it's like an
symbol
arrow.
or something? Yeah, it's definitely like they're leaving their mark. Like, hey, this homestead has already been taken. It's been raided.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think it's what it's doing is it's establishing a band of maybe that is a denim vest. Okay, here we go.
Denim
Here's the best
jacket.
shot I can.
Jimmy's
I'll just
got
give
it?
you this here of
Let's
this
let it
guy
focus.
right there. Sorry about the.
It does. Okay. It looks. I guess it looks a little denim-y. Huh? Denim in Star Wars. We need Paul. Paul will be listening to this tomorrow, I hope. So
I can see it on Coruscant, but not on Tatooine. but
good observation.
So I think it's establishing this biker gang as a potential adversary for the Tuscans. And Boba has now seen them. He understands what they're all about. And so he's going to kick their asses. And that is going to further establish himself within the Tuscan tribe.
We are now part of the tribe.
Mm-hmm.
Here's Roger. Super chat from Roger. Just got here. What did I miss? LOL. Well,
we
thanks
played
for
we played a game of Red Rodian, and it was a lot of fun. And then the bell rang, and we had to go back in for the second half of school.
Thanks, but thanks very much, Roger. That's very kind of you. Also, here is a super chat from Michael Smith. The opening was awesome. I don't know if you mean the opening of Mandalorian of Book of Boba Fett or Book of Boba Fett after show. Either way, thank you very much. Opening was awesome. All those flashbacks. Yeah. Did you notice the font and the color used in the opening credits? It was that green Arial font that was seen in the original theatrical release of Return of the Jedi. The same color green and the same typeface. Where, a Lucasfilm production, at the beginning of Return of the Jedi, if you look at
It says Lucasfilm Limited.
Lucasfilm Limited, yeah. That green, same color green. It's burned in my brain from watching it on VHS for so many times. Rewind, play. So I love that. Nick says, at some point, can you guys discuss the relative locations of Mos Espa, Mos Eisley, Anchorhead, and Jabba's Palace, especially with Boba walking to town? Love you guys. Love you too.
What are
Nick.
we, some kind
Thanks.
of GPS or something?
What am I, an atlas? What am I, an atlas?
You think we're like a map or something?
Thanks, Nick.
We can't pull this back up.
We talked about it a little bit. Jim and I had the same sort of presumption, is that Jabba would be more associated with Mos Eisley in that area than Mos Espa. But, as you pointed out, we saw him at his racetrack proper there in Mos Espa in episode 1. He was definitely, the big cheese, pardon the Spaceballs pun, but he was the big cheese there at Mos Espa during the big Bunta Eve race. When we see him in Mos Eisley, he's there, chasing down Han Solo. So, relative locations, I don't know. There's got to be Star Wars maps or Atlas or Tatooine
Google
or something
search of
like that.
Tatooine map.
Yeah, it's got to be on there.
Well, I got the Atlas.
All right. Is it
All right,
worth?
well,
Jimmy Mac's going to
hold
go.
on. I'm gonna
While
get the
Jimmy
Atlas.
Mac's doing that, here's Mitch. He says, rarely predict correctly, but I got it right back in Mando Season 2. Escape from Sarlacc, left for dead by Jawas, rescue by Sand People. Chut, guys. Good on you, Mitch. Yeah, I think you definitely nailed it. I think there were some breadcrumbs, throughout Mando. season 2 that would lead you to that conclusion. But well done. What else we got here? Oh, we got a new one. This just in, super chat from Peter. Peter is always hanging out with us on the after show. Super chat. Got to run on vacation and getting yelled at. Oh no, he's on vacation. I could just imagine. I know what that voice sounds like. You're supposed to be hanging out with the family. What are you doing? We're on vacation.
Zoom call for work.
Those are Star Wars people. I know. I see them. Thanks, Peter. That's awesome, man. Thank you very much. Peter's one of those dudes.
What gives you that idea? We're Star Wars fans.
Peter's here for every after show. That's awesome. Thanks, man. Here's AJ.
The Atlas has nothing. The
Atlas has nothing on Tatooine. Really?
No. Just do a Google search though, and you'll see some things. And then there was this globe, this Tatooine globe that had you'd open it up. It was on a hinge and it had an action figure in there.
Yeah, right.
And the globe did show, Mos Espa, Mos Eisley.
Do you have that figure?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I didn't bring it
it's
for
in
the big
storage.
show.
All right. Well, you brought all your toys tonight. I
have my
noticed.
Tuscans. I have my Tuscans with me, but not the Tatooine globe. I'll get it for next year.
Here's AJ. He says, will the show only be on Tatooine? Any chance of Camino? Well, we saw some Camino. We saw some.
Yeah,
Camino.
but at this point, the timeline, Camino, all the living areas have been destroyed by the Empire.
Right, but could we see some flashbacks of his time on Camino? Likely not. I think you would need some Daniel Logan circa 2002. Be very
Are they going to be de-aging Logan?
Can you imagine make him 12? Now that would be a trick, man. We're going to make Daniel Logan 12. That would be hard. But I wouldn't mind seeing some more Camino action. This is Larry. He says this episode is embarrassingly short. I don't know. Thanks for the super chat. I wouldn't say that it was embarrassingly short. I was going to go back, Jim, and look at Mando seasons 1 and 2 to see, because with Bad Batch, given again that was an animated thing, they gave us a little extra. They gave us an extra long episode, I thought. But were the episodes? Do you recall the episodes that opened seasons 1 and 2 of Mando? Being a little longer. Episode 1 of Mando season 1 was a little longer. It was like 40 some minutes. You have to go back and look at the tales of the tape. That's why we do that.
The season finale.
Yep, season finale was 40 some minutes, close to 50
minutes.
Extra
long here. But I mean, just eyeballing, let's just look at season 1 of The Mandalorian. Okay. The first episode, chapter 1, was 40 minutes. It wasn't an hour, as people are reporting. It was 40 minutes. Chapter 2, The Child, 34 minutes. Chapter 3, The Sin, 38 minutes. Chapter 4, The Sanctuary, 42 minutes. Chapter 5, 36. Chapter 6, 42. So, I mean, this is the exact same ballpark that all the Mandalorian episodes run. Chapter 8, the season finale of season 1, ran 49 minutes, but it was a season finale. Every other episode runs anywhere from 34 to 44 minutes, with the season finale being 49 minutes of season. And then season 2, we get some longer episodes. The Marshal was 55 minutes. There was a lot of ground to cover in that episode.
Wow, that was 55 minute with the wow, okay.
With the Crate Dragon.
The Crate Dragon, yeah, that was a lot. Yeah.
But then chapter 11, the Heiress, is 36 minutes. The Tragedy, 35 minutes.
And there was a lot in that episode too.
And then, of course, chapter 16, the finale, was 47 minutes. So all of them range in that territory, with the lone exception being the Marshal, which ran 55 minutes. So what we're getting here in length, embarrassingly short, no, actually quite consistent with what's been established for Star Wars streaming series via The Mandalorian season 1 and 2. So nothing to keep your pants on.
All right.
Nothing to get excited about here.
We'll get back to the super chats in just a moment, but when I get back to the phone lines, we got first time, long time, Jeff calling from Sacramento. Hey, Jeff. Welcome to Rebel Force Radio After
How you
Show.
doing?
Doing great tonight. How are you?
How you doing? Good. I've been a long time listener. I've listened to you guys for about 10 years. Brought me many happy memories over my life. So
that's very sweet.
Thank you guys for that.
Appreciate it. Really do.
So my only thought I want to ring by you guys is, do you think we'll see any more of the Hutt family make an appearance? Because they were a family, the 5 families of the Hutts. And I don't imagine that they would take lightly to Jabba dying and then Boba Fett taking it over, that they would just idly sit by. Do you think we could see them maybe make an appearance and, try to take back power?
Jim, what do you think? Are we going to see some CGI Hutt goodness? What do we got?
That's a good question. As much as I'd like to say yes, I think it will start diluting the story if we introduce new Hutts and everything like that. I think just having Boba take over and deal with that is going to be enough fuel the series without bringing in Jabba's uncle or somebody. It might bog things down in too much Huttness. Again, I think the consistency is connecting this series to the original trilogy more than anything else. And I wouldn't really look beyond that too much. Not in the first season. If this thing goes multiple seasons like The Mandalorian did, then I see opportunity to start sliding in elements that we've seen in animation before. This doesn't necessarily have to be tied down to being an animated thing. Everyone knows that it was said in episode 1, the Hutts control Tatooine. The Hutts, plural. The Hutts.
That's
and
right.
We saw Gardula the Hutt. With Jabba.
They have a whole.
They
have a whole planet now, Hutta, where that's where the operations you would assume are being run out of, right?
It would be interesting if Boba
it's like in
there.
The Sopranos.
Yeah.
It's Tony Soprano, and then Uncle Junior, and then you got the New York families and all that stuff.
Right.
So you just, I don't know. It's an interesting question that
I think it's a great question. We can't go there. The Hutts are gangsters. Hutts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think season 1 will be more personal about Boba, his story being told, in the present tense, in the past tense via the flashbacks. So they have 2 storylines running at the same time that are supposed to eventually come together seamlessly.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that that's going to be the main focus of this season. If the series should continue on, I think then maybe some of the bigger picture stuff like the Hutts on Now Hutta and all of that will be looked at a little bit closer.
Yeah. Hey,
I think it'd be cool.
It would be. I would like to see some Hutts. I would love, if they can get the CG working. I haven't seen a really good looking Hutt since 1983. But, they keep trying. They keep trying. Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate it, man. Thanks for being such a long-time listener. Really appreciate that. Who else we got? Oh, here's another super chat. This is Matt. Matt says, I really don't see it being far-fetched to see Mace in this show, keeping it Godfather-like by Boba Fett. Finding out the man who killed his father is still alive, it would be a great twist to the show. The problem with that is it was kind of dealt with in the Clone Wars. And
well, see, here's the thing. Yeah, I'm sorry, Jason.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, Jim.
I will rudely interrupt as long as
yes,
you're inviting
please
me.
Do. Yes, I'm encouraging.
I think the problem with bringing a Mace Windu into season 1 especially is like I said, you have these interweaving stories about Boba, his individual personal story. The show is called Book of Boba Fett. So we're hearing, we learn about how he survived and what he did in that 5-year period before he got his armor back. And now he's got his armor back and he is the crime lord of Tatooine. So we're moving forward. We're looking in the past, and it all surrounds Boba Fett. If you bring in Mace Windu, then you're put into a position where you have to explain Mace Windu and what he's been doing for like the past 30 years and how he survived and how did he get his hands back and all of that stuff. I would like to see it. But again, I mean, that's something that would be more appropriate in a future season or in another series. Keep in mind, the title of this show is The Book of Boba Fett. So it's about Boba. It's all about Boba. And if you bring in a Mace Windu, you have to spend a lot of time focusing in on that character. And then that takes away from Boba Fett. And it just turns into a nightmare for the storytellers, really, to have now you got all these stories interweaving.
Yeah, too many competing characters. I mean, that was one of the challenges that George cited, JJ cited. You've got so much competition. Dave Filoni talked about it. So much competition for screen time with all these great characters. I think they've got to keep the menu somewhat limited, especially for this first season. And we'll see how it goes. There could be more seasons. Our buddy Eric from Phoenix. Thanks, Eric. Do you think we will see any of the bounty hunters from Empire show up? Thanks for the live stream and Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you, buddy. Another great longtime supporter of the show. Any of the other bounty hunters, Jim? Are we going to see a Forlam or a Zuckuss or a Bosk or any of those other famous bounty hunters?
Well, I think Bosk is your most likely candidate because we're dealing with Trandoshans. So there could be the connection there. I would love to see it. I would love to see Dengar. No question about it. I would love to see them coming to work for Boba, actually. Because Boba pointed out when the Trandoshan came to visit, he's like, I used to work with this guy for this guy. This is weird.
Right, yeah. This is weird.
It's weird. This is weird. Which is kind of funky dialogue for Star Wars.
Right.
But, this is weird. It's like, what are you talking about? Look where you are, man. Everything is weird. You gotta.
You think this is weird?
A walking, talking lizard is coming in to present you with a Wookiee pelt. And this is weird because I used to work with him. Weird. Awkward. No. It's everything's weird, Boba. Just roll with it. Just roll with it. Just roll with it, baby. But so yes, I think that seeing a Dengar or a Forlam, I mean, that would be great if they came into they worked for Boba.
Yeah, Dengar was seen in Jabba's palace.
Absolutely.
So there's some continuity there. I think that's a good one. Aaron writes, Boba flashbacks, more like flashback to appreciate the super chat. Yes, that's the flashback is awesome.
That's the phrase that pays.
For sure. Thanks very much. William Smith writes, this episode reminded me of Conan the Barbarian with how they told the story largely without dialogue. Unfortunately, my enjoyment went downhill when the characters start talking. Also, just like Conan, I sympathize with what William is saying. Star Wars dialogue is tough. Star Wars acting is tough. Some do it better than others. And I would say I didn't find the dialogue in A Book of Boba Fett hateful at all. I will say, too, I encourage you, I know you feel like you have every line memorized of the original trilogy, but go back and listen to little things like, you came in that, you're braver than I thought. Nice. Okay, so that, it's very, I don't know what the word is. It's common. It's very, I don't want to say trendy, but it's a common way of, it's sarcasm. It's humor that is not stilted. It's casual humor. So sometimes, and I certainly include myself in this, we get a little too precious about Star Wars dialogue. Roll with it, go with it, don't fight it. Yes, there are times when it's just bad no matter what it's in, whether it's be Star Wars or something else. But there was nothing other than, again, Major Domo, I thought, was kind of un-Star Warsy. But Jim, the dialogue in this overall, I did not find cringy or un-Star Wars like.
No, I think Favreau does a good job with it. And I feel like the acting is up to the task to deliver these sometimes awkward lines and wacky dialogue. But I don't have any issues with it at all. Not at all. I even like George Lucas's corny takes on dialogue.
Yeah,
too,
right.
I did. I just, there's something very old school about it, like films from the 40s where, they had that really rapid fire way of talking. And you hear it in Carrie Fisher when she says, "You'll never get this bucket of bolts past that blockade." See?
Yeah.
See?
Here's
So,
Alex
yeah,
with a great super chat. How cool was it when Doc Strassi, the Trandoshan, gave Boba the Wookiee pelt as a tribute?
Yeah.
Serious fanfare. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to the whole Rebel Force gang. Much love, Alex. Well, thanks, Alex. Happy New Year to you as well. Yeah, that was very cool.
Yeah.
Love that.
And what made it even cooler is that we're talking about it because we identified the Wookiee pelt, but nowhere in the dialogue do they say, "I'm giving you this Wookiee pelt as a tribute." He's holding it, and we know the Trandoshans don't like the Wookiees, and it sure looks like some Chewbacca fur there in this guy's hands. So it's definitely an assumption we're making as fans, but I think we're 1,000% correct too, because we know of that Trandoshan Wookiee rivalry, and we just get it. So that's an Easter egg for us hardcore fans. Another Favreau slam dunk.
Oh my gosh, the super chats keep coming in, man. Thank you guys. It's so kind of you. Here's another one we got just in from Mo. Hey Mo, I'm sure you never heard that before. Happy New Year, all. Make your resolutions anything RFR Star Wars. Oh, that's great. Yes, thank you. That's again super generous. Very, very kind.
Resolution. How do you make a Star Wars resolution? Do you have to resolve to watch more Star Wars?
I think so. Yes. I'm a big believer that you got to watch. Boy, there was a time when I said the whole trilogy. I guess now we're talking about saga. I think you got to do it every 3 or 4 months. I really do. I think you got to do it a good 2 or 3 times a year. And we'll. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. I was going to bring up Jimmy Mack. I got a text from him. He's like, "Yeah, I'm watching The Last Jedi on TV." I still can't get into it or whatever it was. But you owe it to yourself, rewatch them. And then I also saw Jimmy Mack getting challenged on Facebook about his feelings about the Solo movie. And you laid out a really great case. I mean, just went bam, 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 bam.
Bad about it.
What you don't like about it. You shouldn't feel bad. It was a really well laid out case.
It's peeing in the pool is what
I don't think so. Hey, look, if you love it, you love it. If you don't, you don't. And I think you give voice for a lot of people that's not their favorite.
We'll break all that down when RFR returns in 2022 because I do want to talk about that a little bit more on the main show.
I get what here's a super chat from Matt. He says, "I get what you're saying, but didn't like." And Boba Fett showing up in The Mandalorian take over the show. That's why I don't see it being far-fetched. Mace making an appearance. Thanks, guys. Love the show. I get what you're saying. Oh, I see. So what he's saying, Jim, is your point about too many characters showing up. Well, Boba showed up in Mando, kind of took over the show. So why not a Mace Windu in Book of Boba Fett? It's a fair
that would be
point.
fine. I mean, you'd almost have to commit then to doing a Mace Windu series because you can bring him into Boba Fett, but you really can't spend all the time digging into what he's been up to for the past 30 years and how did he survive with no hands, being thrown out a window from 1,000 stories up or whatever it was. That all has to be explained. It doesn't have to be explained if he just shows up in this series and then they announce a Mace Windu series. Now that would be interesting.
That would be interesting. Look, if any of the alums, you got to think though, if any of the alums carry the kind of weight of, say, Ewan McGregor or somebody like that, Sam Jackson comes to the forefront. I mean, this is a major Hollywood star. If he said, "Hey, man, give me 7 episodes, we'll do a Mace Windu show," and we'll talk about what happened to him after he got thrown out of the Emperor's office. I mean, I don't know that I don't know how crazy that sounds. If it was anybody other than Sam Jackson.
7 episodes, 8 figures on the payroll. That could cause a problem.
I suppose, but I don't know. He's such a fan. Yeah.
I mean, Samuel L. Jackson, he's notorious for being a guy who just works. So, maybe he'd give a hometown discount, a home team discount to Star Wars.
He might,
and work cheaper than his $50 million price tag or whatever it is. But we have to keep in mind he also is 73 years old.
Good Lord, is he really?
Yeah, I think he looks vastly different now than he did when he was Mace Windu. But I mean, we also are talking 30 years in the future, so it would work.
Right. Crazy Mace, man. You and we called it years ago about Crazy Mace.
It was summer 2013. I'll never forget it. And it was just a random talk about, not only does he survive getting thrown out the window, but he's insane,
right?
As a result of the experience.
Yes. He's got the fro, kind of crazy grave afro going on.
Like Forrest Whitaker in Rogue One.
Right.
He's definitely sporting the Saw Gerrera look.
Yeah.
And maybe you can even team up with Saw Gerrera. They could put a band together or something.
Here's Nick. Nick wants to chime in here. Hello, Nick. Welcome back, or welcome to the Rebel Force Radio After Show. Hello, Nick.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
There he is. Hey, Nick.
Chut. Thanks for hanging in there, man. It's been a long show, but we're having a good time.
Yeah, I've absolutely enjoyed listening to you guys tonight. I was actually referred to you guys a couple of years back by Jeremy Griggs from Geeks and Gamers.
Oh, very good. Love those guys.
So, I've been listening to you guys. But yeah, Coach and I, we did a stream on the show tonight. We watched the episode tonight, and all in all, we liked the episode. Definitely had our issues with it. I mean, you got to remember the last thing that we saw live action Star Wars was the return of Luke Skywalker, which was pretty much a grand slam home run. And going from that to this, I can see why people might be underwhelmed somewhat, but you can't have grand slam home runs like that all the time.
Sure. It wouldn't be special if you had it if you ate filet mignon every day, it would be no big deal. But I hear what you're saying. Yes, they certainly left a big pair of shoes to fill with Luke Skywalker showing up. That's a good point. But I think that they're, as I said, after I watched it for the second time, and my wife watched it with me, I said, this was I think a great first episode. I will say this about this series. I don't think there's any time for filler. I don't think there's any excuse for filler. I don't want any filler. I want all action all the time. This episode really brought it to me. I didn't think that they really wasted any time. I thought everything that happened really had a purpose in the story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, something else I was curious about to get y'all's thoughts on is, Boba Fett comes in, shoots Bib Fortuna, and basically takes over. Well, what exactly is he taking over and ruling over? Because most rulers are backed by some sort of force of violence with an army or something. I'm not seeing anybody at Jabba's palace other than AD-8 and 2 Gamorrean guards.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And so I don't really see how much force he's got to really take claim over ruling over anything or anybody abiding by his rule.
Yeah, man, that's interesting. Where's the infantry? Right. I mean, he was lucky that he found a couple of scrub Gamorrean guards to, that's a really, really interesting idea. In fact, they sort of pan around Jabba's palace in that opening shot before you see him in the Bacta, and there's no denizens. First time I ever heard the word denizen was in relation to Jabba's palace. You know,
no Efont man.
No
Potsnikin. No man.
I think you hit on something. So is that by design, in the sense that, you know, there's a little symbolism over substance? Boba is hoping that everyone assumes that he has the same power and the same resources as Jabba and Bib, or is it what we heard Filoni talk about in those early days of the Clone Wars, that it's expensive to have all these models, it's expensive to have all these actors, and yes, that's why the early seasons of the Clone Wars looked fairly sparse. Jim, I remember one of the criticisms you laid early on in the Clone Wars was it was like sparsely populated when they showed us Mos Eisley Cantina. You're like, where are all the characters? Where are all the creatures? And Filoni's reply to us was, it's expensive, guys. It's hard to populate a world like that.
Yeah, and it did become more densely populated as the seasons built up. So by the time you got to season 5, 6, and 7, you were seeing all of those characters in the background and stuff. And it gave you all that eye candy, so your eyes can dart around in the frame and like, oh, look at that guy, he's cool. But it's sort of depressing to see Jabba's palace so empty.
It is. And so here goes the new what is it? Daimyo or whatever the title is. Daimyo. He's going around by himself. He's not being carried around on the litter. He's got his assassin, and he's got 2 scrub Gamorreans. That's it. So what is it really that's backing him up?
88. Don't forget 88.
That's awesome, Nick. Thank you very much. I really appreciate the comment and the observation, man. Thank you so much for calling in and offering that, because it's one of those things where you hear it now, and I go back and rewatch that episode, and I'm like, where is the backup? Where is the firepower? Where is the muscle? Where is the muscle? Nick from Minneapolis, thanks for hanging on so long. Appreciate it, buddy. Also a Patreon member.
Hey.
Hello, Nick.
Hey, chut, guys.
Chut, buddy.
Chut.
It's great to hear your guys' voices. And just really excited coming down off of this first episode.
Nice to hear from you as well.
Yeah, and now our last caller said that a lot of people are underwhelmed because it was a tough act to follow with Luke Skywalker and everything. I don't know. I was quite whelmed with this episode, and I'm curious to hear what you think about it.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I mean, if anything, this is a really good first chapter. I mean, it is called the Book of Boba Fett, so we really are getting the first chapter. We're salivating. We want more, right? I mean, I feel like there's just, I think you hit on it earlier when you talked about comparing it to The Godfather 2. I think we're going to hit this kind of stride, and we're going to have this kind of pace where we get to see how Boba Fett's character has transformed from this bounty hunter into this crime lord. And we're going to see, you know, his time spent with the Tuscan Raider camp and how that's influenced him to want to be a crime lord. That's something that, you know, we haven't really talked about either, is like, why does he want to be a crime lord? What's motivating him to be in that position of power? And why is he going after Bib Fortuna? We're going to see, and I'm assuming we're going to see the rationale or the reasons why, what leads him to become that. Yeah. You know, I think it's a Robert Rodriguez thing or something, but he's got an aversion to wanting to use jetpacks. I mean, not to be nitpicky or anything, but like what that scene in the middle of Mos Espa where they get him and Fennec Shand get surrounded by those shields with those ninjas, right? And he's got his jetpack on.
Does
Why can't he just
have his
button?
jetpack on in that scene?
He
Here's
does.
what happens, guys.
I've watched it 4 times today.
It's at the very beginning of the brawl. They have him surrounded with those laser shields, and Django fires off a projectile
Boba,
from
not
his
Django.
I'm sorry, Boba fires off the projectile from his gauntlet.
Yep.
And it bounces off the shield and hits him in the face. So he is stunned and he goes down. So he's at a disadvantage right at the beginning of the fight, and he's a victim of his own fireworks. So that's why he gets so, the other caller was asking, how come we didn't see him unleash the can of whoop ass? Well, I think that's the prime reason, is because right at the beginning of the fight, he takes that fire from him. It's friendly fire. It's his own projectile. And we see how powerful that thing is later in the brawl when he shoots again at the guy running up on the rooftop and just completely disintegrates the guy.
Oh, that
and
was
takes
that
out,
something?
and takes out a chunk
There's
of the
nothing
wall.
left.
Right. And he takes out a chunk of the wall. So these projectiles coming out of his gauntlet are super powerful. And so he got that thrown back at him. And that's what really caused the damage more than anything, and what made him a weaker combatant throughout that brawl.
Sure. No, I totally see that. I feel like it's one button he can push, and he could have just gone vertical on them. And even in the moments where he was getting knocked down and stuff, I feel like there's hey, I wasn't the guy in the middle fighting all those guys.
That's right.
So, I mean,
yeah.
But
who are you to judge? You weren't there.
You see how well you can use a jetpack.
What? No, wait a minute. You mentioned, you say, okay, so Robert Rodriguez does not want to use jetpacks. Tell me, is there another episode?
Yeah.
What's the other example of him not liking to use jetpacks?
Sure. Well, when we go back to the Mandalorian episode, where we first see Boba Fett come back, and I think it was on Tython. I forget the name of the episode, but he says, drop your weapons. He's got a sniper on him. It's Fennec Shand. He says, put the jetpack down. He puts the jetpack down. They have a little conversation, and then they see incoming Imperial ships, so they kind of scatter. Well, why didn't? It's a brief second. Mando could have grabbed his jetpack right there, and that would have leveled out some of the action and the timing and stuff. I feel like it was a little convenient to forget the jetpack and not use the jetpack, where it's such a powerful tool, and it's so cool to see on screen.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's something, I don't know.
Maybe it's a little OP. My son was always saying, "Oh, that's so OP." Maybe it's a little overpowered in some instances.
Sure.
And it's like, oh shoot, I forgot he has a jetpack. He could just use his jetpack to do that. And that could be kind of difficult for someone who's telling a story. But either way,
they
Nick,
fly now.
Yeah, right. They fly now. They fly now. Thanks, Nick. Appreciate it, man. Appreciate the call. Got a couple more super chats here. We are running a little long, but I hope you don't mind. It's a holiday, and there was no regular RFR, and I don't know about Jimmy and Tyler, but I got nowhere else to go. I mean, what else am I going to be doing this time of night?
Tyler, you got any thoughts on this episode? We haven't heard from Tyler.
We have not about this.
Is there anything that you have a comment, observation, a question that we didn't cover so far?
I had so many questions coming out of this. That's the main thing that was coming up. Why does Boba want to be a crime lord? What's the motivation there? Is he interested in money? Is he interested in power? I don't think he's interested in money. He's going around collecting it, but I think it's more of you got to pay your dues. You got to show some respect, put some respect on my name kind of thing. So, and also, what is going to be his relationship to the Tuscans? Because you see him there in Mando, and he's sort of alone. And these Tuscans, they kept him alive just to sort of torture him for a bit. So if that were me, I'd want to kill them all, to be honest. Like, why are you torturing me, man?
Yeah.
So, I just have so many questions, so many thoughts running through my mind when I watch this episode. So,
well,
no big observations.
We know where Boba stands on torture. He says to, is it Fennec? or 88. I'm sorry, no torture, because he's been through it. He knows what he knows what it's like. He doesn't feel that it's honorable. It's not a tool that he wants to wield. So I respect that. But yeah, there's so much track that's laid here that we want to see covered for sure.
It's kind of interesting because Boba does put up a little bit of a little resistance to Darth Vader on Cloud City when Han is being tortured. He said, "What if he doesn't survive? He's worth a lot to me." Boba, even back then, is displaying a reluctance toward torturing.
Yeah.
Now he was obviously thinking in terms of dollars and cents there, and what's he was told to bring Solo in alive, but still there might be some sort of undercurrent there where he thinks it's unseemly or unnecessary, and so that was his way of letting Darth Vader know. You have to treat Darth Vader with kid gloves. You have to. What if he doesn't survive? Instead of saying, "I think torture is wrong, Darth Vader." Wrong.
We got a super chat here from Dilly248. Dilly, like your own Dilly dog there in the Mac house. How long was Bib in charge? Handful of months, maybe? Thanks for such a great and long after show.
5 years.
Yeah, I think, we could probably assume that. Yeah, about 5 years. Because it's 5 years post-Jedi. Yeah.
He gets executed at the end of season 2 of The Mandalorian, which is at least 5 years after Return of the Jedi.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's why I think he was riding with the Tuscans for quite a long time.
Right.
And so there has to be a motivation for him to stay with that tribe. There has to be. We'll find out what that is.
Yeah. Our buddy Rich Brendel, Last Jedi rocks, Baba Booey, Papa Booey. Thanks, Rich. Appreciate it, buddy. Yes, it does. It sucks rocks. Selena says, "Happy New Year's, gents. I was wondering if you all think Boba is on a hero's journey or if he's a crime boss and that's it." Well, that's a good question for our own Marku. The Jedi Yogi. Is Boba on his own hero's journey here, or is he just a crime boss and that's it? I think we're all on our own hero's journey. So I think Boba, by extension, is on his own on his hero's journey. Not sure if that's the story that's going to be told here. It could be. I have to think that if you start, there's rumors that Grogu's going to show up. Baby Yoda to most of us. Luke Skywalker is going to show up. Does that point to some sort of greater good? Does that point to Boba Fett contributing to that greater good? And conversely with his hero's journey? Possibly. I don't know. I mean, I think it's a great question in terms of what is the end game? Tyler was bringing up those questions. Why does he want to do this? What's in it for him? What's he motivated by? What makes him tick? I don't think we know these things really about Boba Fett at this point.
No, I've always thought Boba was a villain, but things are changing, and I have no idea what he is now.
Being a crime lord, though, crime, that doesn't really have positive connotations connected to it. Crime lord. And who goes around calling themselves a crime lord? I'm the crime lord now, and this is my master assassin.
Okay,
it's like, really telegraph yourself a little more. Why don't you?
Yeah, this is my master's. Okay, but going back to the Godfather, the Godfather and the Corleone family and Brando's character, and then later Pacino's version, more so Brando's character, was this sort of gentle, wise figure that had some sense of virtue and honor on them. So I can definitely see why Favreau and others have commented and said that The Godfather was a big influence, because it's not as black and white as good guy, bad guy. villain, hero. You can, one of the criticisms of The Godfather is that they make, Brando and organized crime to be a little too honorable in some ways, because at the end of the day, as you point out, Jim, it's still crime is crime, violence is violence, murder is murder, all of that stuff. But at the same time, we have, as a society, kind of romanticized this a bit, especially with organized crime, and stories like The Godfather help perpetuate that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No matter how you slice it, we're rooting for Michael Corleone, but he's still shooting a cop in the throat in the middle of a packed restaurant. So,
Yes, that's right.
Good guy? No, definitely not a good guy, but someone we can root for, the anti-hero.
Yes, for sure. For sure. All right, let's do, we have time for one more call. This is Ryan from Houston. Ryan, thanks so much for waiting. Let's see. Yes, Ryan, are you with us?
Hey, Jason and Jimmy, Chut. How are you guys?
Hey, Chut.
Hi, Ryan. Chut.
Hey, thanks for taking my call, guys.
Of course.
This has been a great show. I know we're getting towards the end of the night here. I just had to ask about these, what you guys' thoughts are on these desert coconuts that are apparently just inches underneath the sand of Tatooine. I got a good chuckle out of those. And, I'm like, are these things all over the planet? Why do we have moisture evaporators everywhere if we just have to dig a few inches and find water and coconuts? But what were you guys' thoughts on that?
All right, I think that's the difference between the industrial farm, right? There's an industrial farm, and then there's the home farm. And I think that the home farm is represented by the little water pods, or whatever the hell they are. And then you've got, of course, the big industrial, you introduce technology and all of that. So essentially, I think the Tuscan Raiders are Amish.
Yeah, well,
right.
Yes. They have, they probably find technology to be repulsive. They live off the land. And there's really not that much water you're getting out of those little buds or whatever they are. So you to get the real water, you have to go to a farm. But if you're a little parched, just dig a few inches beneath the sand, you might come up with something. It's like finding a random bottle of Ice Mountain natural spring water just right there on the sidewalk. You pick it up, you drink it, you go on about your. Who does that?
I personally think it's Tuscan knowledge, because if Cobb Vanth knew where it was when he was crawling out there in the sand, he would have been digging.
Yeah.
That's right.
I thought maybe they were relying on their doggy there to sniff them out or something like that.
Maybe it's localized to one specific area, and it's kind of a Tuscan secret.
Could be, but I've watched enough Looney Tunes to know that you can drink out of a cactus. Is that true? Is it sort of the same idea? You hack the cactus. I've seen. I think the Roadrunner did that a few times. Maybe Bugs Bunny. There's water growing out of a cactus. Makes sense to me.
Same concept.
I like what he said about the dog sniffing out the water.
Yeah, I thought maybe that's why they had the dog along. He knew where the coconuts were. But,
he's humping it.
Oh, come on. No. Oh, God. Can't take that dog anywhere. Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate it very much. Couple of super chats here to close out the night. We've got Alex saying, we see Zero the Hutt in the next episode. What are the first words? All right. This is teed up for you, Mac. We see Zero the Hutt in the next episode. Mm-hmm. What are the first words he utters to Boba?
What the hell am I doing here? Snooty shot me right in the chest.
I love it. Thanks, Alex. Appreciate the super chat and the Jimmy Mac impression tee up here. Eric from Phoenix, this is a great way to close it. Eric always knows how to close things. Boba needed to say, Tatooine, after he drank the water at the end of the episode. I was thinking the same thing. Of course, Tim Morrison did some tourism videos for New Zealand, the New Zealand spa. Jimmy Mac brought that to us in I think Star Wars and Pop Culture on a recent Rebel Force Radio episode. I was thinking the same thing. Yeah, because he even said the There's a little bit of a after he finally drank.
You get into the hot tub, there's a bunch of Tuscans in there.
It was awesome. All right. Well, hey, don't expect a 2.5 hour show every week, guys. All right. We haven't been together for a while, and it's a holiday. And it was the first episode of the Book of Boba Fett. So hope you appreciate and enjoyed the long show this week. Big thanks, of course, to Tyler for taking the calls. Thank you very much, Tyler. And thanks to our sponsors this week. Rebel Force Radio will be back next week with more after show goodness. The regular Rebel Force Radio will not be heard next week. We're just going to do the old after show here, but we'll be back. Jim, what's our day? We'll be back on the regular show.
RFR, the weekly show will start dropping on Fridays again. So look for the next full episode of RFR to drop on Friday the 14th. But we'll be back here next Wednesday the 5th for the Book of Boba Fett after show. And if we're not here on Wednesday the 5th, we'll be there on Thursday the 6th. That's how we're gonna do it. If a scheduling conflict or life gets in the way, we're gonna have to move from Wednesdays to Thursdays. But we plan on hitting Wednesdays throughout the duration of this season. So we hope you guys are with us. We'll be live on YouTube, and then the podcast will drop shortly after the live show wraps up. And we thank you all so much for joining us on these live streams. We thank you so much for calling in. Jason thanked Tyler. I'm going to thank him again too. You really make our life a hell of a lot easier here when we do the live shows. So I can't understate how important you are to our operation here, the RFR operation, and of course all of our great listeners. I'm so happy we were able to get together here during the holidays, and I hope everyone has a really great New Year. And you watch the Book of Boba Fett 500 times, and you'll be primed next week. I've already seen it 5 times myself. Stayed up till, caught it as soon as it dropped at 2 a.m. And when it was over, I watched it again.
2 a.m. Central. That'd be 1 a.m. Eastern time.
So that would be 3
or 3 a.m. Eastern is, and that's right, because it all goes to Pacific. Yeah, so it's midnight Pacific time. So if that's when you want to catch it, please do.
8 a.m. in the UK.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I saw the emails, Paul. What'd you think, gents? Here's my top 10 observations. Jason, if you're reading this first thing in the morning.
Yeah. And that's what the subject line says.
Right. It's all in the subject line. I love you, Paul. Again, thank you so much. Great calls and great observations, great questions. Really appreciate it. As Jim said, we'll be back next week for a heck of a lot more. Chapter 2. So before we sign off here, Jim, how do you rate this episode? Was it a good, first entry, first chapter into this, or were you hoping for more? Final thoughts.
Well, no, I think this was great. I was disappointed when the episode ended. The episode really stuck with me. I think it has a great rewatchability factor. It presented us with visions that I'd always dreamed about, specifically Boba escaping from the Sarlacc, seeing how that all went down, how the Jawas came into play, how the Tuscans came into play. I mean, this is all really monumental stuff. I mean, this is big time stuff in the history of the Star Wars timeline, and definitely stuff that I've had on my wish list for a long time. And I just love the idea of a series featuring Boba Fett. In the wake of the 2 seasons, the spectacular 2 seasons of The Mandalorian that introduced us into live action, this might seem a little derivative of that, and thus it might lack the impact of freshness it would have, like The Mandalorian surprised us with when it debuted. But what makes me feel good is that it appears that Lucasfilm is staying the course. They understand the tone of The Mandalorian is very authentic and has a lot of Star Wars integrity, and so they are trying to keep that consistency alive with this series, the Book of Boba Fett, the first series following The Mandalorian too. Big shoes to fill, but I think it does a really good job. And I think that when it's all said and done, this series will be providing us with some of the Star Wars we've only dreamed about. And I was very, very happy with this first episode. I think it lays the groundwork for a really exciting series. It gives me a lot to speculate about. And I just can't wait to see how these two different story arcs, the present day story arc of Jabba the Crime Lord with the flashback story arc of Boba Fett and his survival of the Sarlacc in Tatooine. I can't wait to see how it all kind of just comes together, and I hope it does so seamlessly. I think there's some great storytellers working on this series right now with Favreau, Rodriguez, Filoni, etc. And I give it 2 thumbs up. I mean, I was very pleased with it, and as I said, it was 2 a.m, and as soon as it was over, as soon as I watched those credits wrap up, I started it over again, and that's because I really wanted to see it again.
Yeah,
and that to me speaks volumes.
For sure. All right, well, that's it. That'll wrap up this edition of Rebel Force Radio's After Show and our look at the Book of Boba Fett, Chapter 1, Stranger in a Strange Land. We'll be back next week.
Nobody mentioned that the when he choked the 4-armed monster, that was like Leia choking Jabba.
Yeah,
did we all think that?
Yep.
Did we all think that?
Yeah, big time allusions to that. Yes, choking
and here
out.
we are, the 5th anniversary.
So I'm gonna officially call every Boba Fett figure that comes out now Hut Slayer, or excuse me, Monster Slayer, Sand Monster Slayer, Boba Fett. No more bikini Boba Fett. All right, that's it. We're out of here. Yeah, right. Appreciate it. All right, we'll see you next week here on the Book of Boba Fett After Show. For Rebel Force Radio, I'm Jason.
I'm Jimmy Mack.
And I'm Tyler.
And remember,
the Force will be with you, always.